Hello and welcome to the final Liverpool Way podcast of the Jurgen Klopp Era. The dust has settled on his last game and we wanted to just do one more pod where we could do a proper look back over his incredible time here as manager. We wanted to go back and revisit some of the highs, the lows, the great games, the trophies, as well as just the lasting impression that this great man made on all of us. I'm Dave Usher, editor at liverpoolway.co.uk, and with me for this one I've got Julian Richards and Paul Natton. Okay, boys, I had my say after the Wolves game. We done a pod after that, so I spoke about what went down on the day, how I felt and stuff. But I know you two had a lot of thoughts about it as well. So we'll start with that, and then we'll just have a look back on highlights of the Klopp era and stuff, and we'll just see where we end up with that. We'll just start chatting about that. But to start with, we'll go back to Sunday. Jules, I'll start with you. Anything you want to talk about based on what you saw on Sunday, how you felt? Did you cry? I'm assuming you didn't because you said you weren't, and I didn't. So if I didn't, I doubt you will have.
No, I didn't cry. There wasn't really. I thought it was quite well done, but I didn't think it was very maudlin at any point. So it didn't really ever lend itself to blubbing about it. To be honest with
Unless
you.
you're Chris.
Yeah, unless you're Chris. Do you know? I think the only time that I started not well enough, but when you're watching a film, and you start to you think, oh, this is a bit sad, and you can feel it come in. You can feel I might, if this carries on. Usually when an animal's being harmed or something, and he's like, listen, I can't be doing with no animals being killed, and then you feel it welling up, and you can feel yourself welling up. I never got that far, but when Klopp went back to the Kop and did the fist pumps on his own, I did sort of go, oh, fucking hell. It made me feel a bit sad.
Yeah.
But that's as close as I came. Other than that, I thought it was pretty well handled. Although I think the biggest takeaway was Anfield needs this PA system massively upgrading. They need to have people in the stands with sound detectors of what can you hear and what can't you hear, because I think I saw Paul mention it to you, but I on the Kop as well did not know Klopp had started a chant for Slot. I thought he was doing his own chant.
You could see on the video, when I watched it back, and the cameras on the crowd, and loads were singing Jurgen Klopp.
Because the PA system sucks at Anfield.
So it was fine for me, but obviously on the Kop, it's not travelled at all, has it? The sound.
No, also, don't forget the main stand is newer, with newer equipment in it, and probably better acoustics than the Kop has for that kind of stuff. So I didn't get that at all. I just thought he was singing his own chant, and I was thinking, mad dickhead, love it. Didn't think anything else of it.
Exactly the same take, yeah. Same.
And Chris mentioned something on the other pod, which I was 100% on board. Why did you not have all the trophies on the pitch?
Mental.
He's right, we've never seen a Premier League trophy in the wild. Why the fuck would you not put them all on the pitch so we can go, the Premier League trophy, we did win that. We can see it there, everyone can see it. It's evidence, we won that. So I think that was a bit of a mistake, not putting that on. But other than that, I thought it was pretty good, to be honest. Again, how much dwelling can you do on it? I mean, Klopp made a comment about there's no video board at Anfield. I think you might have had it might have been different if there was a video board. I think you might have seen some highlights. I think you might have had more of an interview. But the man himself, he was as gracious, as self-effacing, and just as magnetic as he always was. From starting the chant for Slot to what game would you go back to, Jurgen? And he goes, one of the Man City ones we drew. And it's that kind of sort of off the cuff wit that you're absolutely going to miss. And I was talking to you on the way up to the match. I think what dawned on me on the day of the game is how, in all of my Liverpool supporting life, the Klopp years have only been 8 years of it. I'm 42, so it's not been it's been a good chunk, but it's not been it's the minority part of it. So but to try and get back, I didn't realize I was in the mindset that when I go to games, and when seasons start, even if we've had a bad season the season before, I still expect us to be like good and of a level, and that the football's going to be enjoyable. So even when we had the season after the title, when we with lots of injuries, and then the season after when we won the two cups, and with lots of injuries, both times I didn't like come out of it thinking, well, we're going to be playing bad football and it's going to be a bit shit next year. I just assume we're going to be good again. And every time I go to Anfield, I just assume we're going to be good. And I realise that even though I never say it, and I assume we're not going to lose. And I know that's easy to say because Liverpool's a big club, and how often did we lose really, over the years anyway. Like Anfield's always been quite a good a good home ground for us, a formidable fortress and all that kind of shit. But like to sort of go, oh, hang on, I don't know if we're going to be good anymore. I don't know if we're going to win home games as much. It sort of thrust me into the unknown far more than I realised. I knew he was going, and it didn't like sort of hit me suddenly. Oh, Klopp's going. It's more like, oh shit, we might not be good anymore, and I don't really fancy not being good anymore. I quite enjoyed it for 8 years. I quite enjoyed like playing this like nice, attractive, fast-paced football, and I was like, when it got going, it ramped the crowd up massively, and then it was just like such a good experience being in the crowds. When we were at full flight, and certain games you can always look back to. I was the Roma game when we in the Champions League on the way to Kiev. It's like fucking hell, it's unreal football, absolutely unreal football. So it's gonna be hard adjusting to all of that. And like seeing afterwards, like Verge and Trent, especially Verge, like was a very stoic man. He's very much the chilled out Dutch fella and all that. Like almost going when he's talking about him and stuff. It does make you realize how much he impacted everybody, and it's gonna be a tough adjustment for everyone. But I suppose when you're the sort of man that Jurgen Klopp is, these are the marks you make on people. This is how people end up feeling. There's no other way around it. And I came away satisfied on Sunday. The game itself, again, I'm not going to go over it too much because you and Chris covered it really well earlier in the week. But
did we even cover the game?
No, but
I can't even really remember talking about it.
Well, what I'm going to say is, you'll understand what I say is, we all sat there waiting for the game to end.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, we played all right. We scored a couple of goals. Wolves really never tried. And then there was a long lull where people were just like, and I think I said to them at half time, like, I just want the game to be over now. I'm just like, I want to get to the end bit so that I can just wrap the season up in a bow, and then we can start thinking about next season, because we have to at some point move on. But the game felt like a lot of the teams, like, we just want to get to the bit where we see Klopp on the pitch and say our goodbyes properly. That's what we're looking for here. We're not really. The game is very much an aside, which it felt like, and it was. But also, one final point is like a final day of the season when it's actually, the weather's been shite again this week, but like on Sunday at least it was bright, it was warm, it was sunny, it felt like the end day of the season. And so there's nothing. Imagine it was like
yesterday.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, exactly like yesterday. I mean, the dickhead Prime Minister called the general election, getting piss wet through outside Downing Street, looking like a right arsehole. It just, you all stood around in the rain. Whatever message you're delivering, it's never going to feel like as good as it should. So, I'm sure it would have been a good farewell. It would have been exactly the same setup, but it would have felt more dour. You'd have been going to the sort of, Paul would know about this, the sort of Shakespearean pathetic fallacy and all that kind of stuff, like the weather reflecting the mood. So if the weather reflected the mood, then it was sunny and upbeat. So it felt a better day than it could have been. So yeah. So I'll hand it to Paul there on the English note.
Well, I mean, Jules and I are similar minded when it comes to the weather. We both fucking hate the cold, and we both like it when it's hot. And I that really occurred to me. I think I said as we were walking up, the weather was just perfect for that sort of happy send off.
It wasn't hot enough for shorts though, was he?
Well, for some of us it was, not for others.
Jill said it needs to be 5 degrees hotter for him to wear shorts.
25 degrees or more for shorts. Yeah.
But Jules was rocking a retro Liverpool top, which I liked as well. That looked sharp. Which top was it, Jules? Remind us, which year was it?
It was the 99 home shirt.
That's right. Look good.
The Michael Owen
Um,
shirt.
that's the one. That's the one.
Carline's Riedler shirt for me, but okay.
How did it feel? I mean, I think emotions. No, I didn't cry. I had that. I did have a moment where I thought, "Oh, we are." When, ironically, when the old song started, when the Sadio song started, and then especially when the Bobby song started, and as I started to sing, I just got a little lump in my throat. And then it took a deep breath and moved on, and the moment passed. I wasn't like ready to start boo-hooing, but it just did. It's just kind of, I suppose it's almost muscle memory of those amazing times.
I thought you were going to say then, I was getting really emotional, and then he started singing the Henderson song, and it snapped me out of it.
Oh no, I'll mention that in a sec. I just thought, it just reminded me of how absolutely fucking spoilt we've been. I mean, I've said quite a few times, like before the game and on the pod over this last season. I think I've probably since the announcement, really, I've been reflecting on this, that how similar point to the one Jules made about how spoilt we've been in terms of the quality of football and the results at Anfield. I mean, I haven't done the sums, but I've been to, I don't think I think I might have missed two or maybe three games at Anfield in all competitions of Jurgen's career. So I've seen pretty much every single competition. There's very few games that I've missed. And I reckon it's definitely single figures of games where we've dropped points in that time. And that's absolutely, or if it goes into double figures, it's just.
No, we
it
must have
10,
dropped
11,
points like draws.
10, 11 games. There's very, we win a lot. We win nearly every
more
week.
draws than you probably.
Well, all right, I don't want to argue the point with you, but the point, but basically,
definitely, I'd say
but basically, we go there and we see absolutely fantastic results season after season after season, and it's very, very rare that we even drop points. Never mind lose. And I've talked frequently about how absolutely thrilling the football's been, that visceral, all action attacking stuff, and that's kind of sort of faded is maybe the wrong word, but we've become a little bit more circumspect over the last couple of seasons because I think we've had to, really, judged by the way other teams have played. But still, in our greatest moments, there's that real sort of almost like just unstoppable sense about Klopp's football when the team's going, when we're committing everybody forward, and there's that relentlessness, and everyone's focused on just absolutely swarming all over the opposition. There's nothing like it. I've never experienced anything like it. Everything I love about football is kind of encapsulated in that intensity mixed with genius, mixed with aggression. Just all of it is just absolutely fantastic. We've been spoilt rotten. I think in terms of the stuff that came after, it's hard to be churlish about it because it's hard to be critical of it. There were certain things that maybe I would have done differently, but it just bore Jurgen's fingerprints over the whole thing. He quite clearly wanted all his boys to get their own little applause and acclaim, didn't he? I mean, I don't think anyone apart from Jurgen would have wanted Johnny Acto and Mini Klopp and all of them to come out one after the other. Jack Thingio, is it Jack Harrison? Is it the goalkeeping coach?
Jack Robinson.
Jack Robinson, yeah. Him to come out one by one. I don't think if the club had been having completely their own way, and all of that would have happened as it did. But that's the mark of the fella, really. I mean, it's in line with the whole slot thing. And I have to tell you, I mean, I don't any longer, but I worked in and around sort of senior leadership roles for much of my career, and I've dealt with. I mean, clearly, I'm not talking about the Klopp's level, a world class. Multi-million pound organisation, but I've worked in big organisations, and you deal with senior people, and to a man and to a woman, they are pretty universally pricks. They don't really think about other human beings. They kind of they think their default way of leading is a sense of cold ruthlessness that dehumanises people. And one of the things that I love most about Jurgen Klopp is that this is a man who wears his values and his morality and his sense of humanity on his sleeve, proudly so. There's no shame in him at all in being openly warm with people and being generous to people and being kind to people. That doesn't mean that he's averse to being direct with people sometimes and to being very, very honest. But he's the kind of guy, and the players talk about this, he can say something, he can rip somebody to shreds, and then it's said and it's done, the moment's gone, and the relationship will continue just as positively as it did before. And you know, that all of that is kind of makes him a rare human being in my experience. There aren't many people around like him. And that sense of humility, that you can't put that on to get up on that stage and be thinking about, how do I make it easier for the fella who's following me to do it? That's incredible. Mm-hmm. An incredible sense of self-awareness and a credible sense of humility and just kindness and warmth. I just think, you know, I could easily get a bit sentimental about all this if I haven't already got there by now. It's an unpleasant world that we live in at the moment, and has been for quite a long time, it seems to me. And there aren't many people who stand up for the right way to live your life and the right way to treat other people. And he doesn't tell people how to do it. He just does it. He shows everybody that's the way to live and that's the way to behave. And I saw, and we'll come to the questions later, I'm sure we will, that people had posted on the forum and on Twitter, and one of them was asking about his faults, and I started thinking about his faults because it was framed in such a way that his strengths are legion and obvious, and I think that is fair to say. He's a remarkable man, but I'm not even really interested in his faults because you know, some of the things I started to think about: is he ruthless enough? And actually, I don't care that he wasn't ruthless enough. I'm quite glad that he wasn't ruthless enough. I'm quite glad that if it was up to him, he would have given Bobby another contract and he would have given whoever another contract, even though it was quite obviously the wrong decision for the club. I'm pleased that he leans that way rather than leans the other way, because there's too much country in the world and we don't need that or want that at Liverpool. And so that all of that was in my mind really on Sunday. He's just a very generous, incredibly charismatic man. I think the other thing to say, the flip side of that, is I think people quite routinely dismiss his brilliance. I think people focus on the charisma and they don't think about the intellect, and they don't think about the tactical understanding, and they don't think about the planning and the consideration that goes into the communication skills. I mean, some of it is off the cuff, clearly. You know, one of you mentioned earlier about, you know, I think Jules talked about his off the cuff humour, and that is off the cuff. He's quick witted, he's sharp, and he's funny. But also some of the things he says are clearly thought through and considered. He hadn't he didn't just wing it, particularly with the Arne Slot thing. He might have the particular way he did it might have been spur of the moment, but he knew when he probably for days beforehand that he wanted to make Slot's arrival at Anfield and Liverpool easier, and so he'd been thinking about how he was going to do that. Amazing, really, an absolutely amazing man. And I think, you know, if I think about his whole reign at Liverpool, it's been the greatest of my lifetime. I became really aware of being a Red during Paisley's era, but only sort of really have a clear, strong understanding of the football and the team and the players from the Kenny era. Really, I do remember Paisley's teams, but it doesn't feel strongly mine in the way that Kenny's did. But the Paisley era was amazing. Kenny, some of the foot he played in Kenny's era was amazing, although obviously he wasn't tested in Europe. We had some great days under many of the managers that followed, but nothing comes close to this fella. Absolutely nothing. And I suppose if I have one regret about the whole time, and this was in my mind, unfortunately, on Sunday, is that I just think he was fucking ripped off. I think he was ripped off, and I'm not going to go on and on and on about why, because we all know why. But I think it really annoys me when people talk about his legacy, and I'm not talking even about the banter dickheads from other clubs who talk about one Premier League. I don't think it's even possible to reflect on a guy's career without talking about the number of trophies at this level. But to do so naturally demeans the achievements, because some of those numbers are ridiculous. You know, I think we had a 38 game sequence where we got 110 out of 114 points. Mm-hmm. What the fuck? I think we were a bounce of the ball away from unbeaten Centurions Premier League winners. That's mad. Mm-hmm. That's mad. And I just think this guy is never to be seen again, I think. And I think any reflections, and I know we're not going to really focus on Slot in this pod, but I think any comparisons with Slot are just, between Slot and Klopp, are just patently unfair. Following this guy is going to be almost impossible for anyone. I don't care who you are. You could bring in, Guardiola himself, and he would pale in comparison, because nobody is this combination of genius, of class, and of sheer visceral excitement. He's incredible man, and an amazing manager, and the greatest we've ever had, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, just talking about the football itself, like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in terms of every game he played, his only thought really was like winning the game. It didn't matter who we were playing.
Yeah,
he's never really. I'm not saying we don't plan for what the opposition's going to do, because obviously you do. You do your analysis on what they do and what's the best way to play against them and all that stuff. But he never ever came across as somebody who worried about the other team. It was always like, what can we do against this team? And like, I'd call it like, he who dares wins football. That his whole mentality is like, he who dares wins. There's never, he never took a back step to anybody. Never had a negative thought in how he approached the game. It was, and that's what I've always wanted. And like, it always did me head in when like managers would be like too cautious, and
Benitez was terrible for it.
Not
awful.
Julian as well, but even Kenny had like games where he brought in like an extra defender and done mad stuff, and you're like, what's going on there? Like, Klopp was just, that's exactly what I've always wanted in a manager.
Yeah. And
just the excitement, even in the bad seasons that we've had. Like, last season was shit. Last season we beat United 7-0 at Anfield.
Yeah.
Even in like a shit season, we still have these like, great games, great moments, great goals, just things that you remember. The other season when we were shit, we had the Alisson goal. There's always something, it was like, our shit is like all-time great for most of the teams, but that's the levels that the standards that he set for himself. So when we fell below that, it was disappointing to us, but it was still like, by most other teams, it was like, it would have been great. And going back to, you were saying about like strengths and weaknesses and stuff, I think like one of Klopp's biggest strengths is the fact that he knows his weaknesses. And like, I watched like Pep's interview the other day with Redmen TV, and he was saying,
that was good, that interview.
Yeah,
really
it was. All the stuff they done was all good. They done all the coaching stuff, and Klopp was all really good. Like, but the Pep one, it wasn't stuff that we didn't know. We've heard him like allude to this before, but it was just my big takeaway from it was seeing him talking about like his responsibilities and what his job was, and it's like Klopp basically delegated tactics to him, because he's seen like how good he was at that side of things, and obviously Klopp has the final say. But one of the things that was interesting was he said, like, they asked him what was, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was like, what's like your favourite part of the job? And he said something along the lines of, I really look forward to half time and like the 15 minutes after, when it's my job to fix, what's happening like tactically, and come up with a plan for the substitutions and what can we do to change the game. And I come up with the plan, and then I tell Jurgen what the plan is, and then that's what we do. So he's delegated that side of things because he must feel, okay, Pep's better at that than I am, so I'm just going to let him do it, give him responsibility. If I don't agree, I might not always go along with it, but I'm passing the responsibility on because that's his strength. So it's things like that, and he said that himself. He said, I know I'm not like great at everything, but what like my strength is, I'm quite happy to listen to people who know more than I do. It's not an ego thing where he's like, well, I'm not having someone coming up with better ideas than me. He actually welcomed that, he embraced it. And that just comes down to a lack of ego. So many managers out there with like massive egos And then you look at Klopp, and it's like he's the exact opposite. I mean,
So supremely self-confident without ever
there is an ego
spilling over in.
No,
He doesn't spill over to arrogance, though, does he?
no,
There's no
never.
arrogance there.
Obviously, he's got an ego. He's a successful man. He's confident. There is a certain level of ego, but he's aware of that, and he would never let the ego get in the way of the right thing. And I think that was one of his biggest strengths, really. And we've seen that with just like the growing influence that Pep Lijnders had. He's talking about like the Trent thing, and he'd been pushing for that for a while, and then in the end he's like, look, we've got to do it. And I thought it is like, I don't really like the inverted fullback thing, but I did think his explanation of why they needed to do it was really interesting. And it basically came down to the fact that we'd replaced Firmino with Núñez, and Núñez was wanting to run one way and Bobby was running the other, dropping into midfield and giving us the extra midfielder. We lost that. The two wide players were playing differently now because they were a little bit older. Well, Diaz had replaced Sadio, Mo was a bit older, so we didn't have that same dynamic in the front three with Bobby dropping in, and he felt we were losing out in midfield, and we needed an extra body in there, and you couldn't have any of the front three doing it, so it was Trent, and that's what his reason for doing it, and it all makes sense, and it worked in terms of like the points tally, because we were struggling up until the point when he made that change against Arsenal last season, and then the points tally since then's been really good. Now, it doesn't always pass the eye test for me, and I don't know whether it's something that we'll stick with in time, but the fact is, like, Klopp listened to that advice. He didn't really want to do it for a while, and then he's like, okay, we'll try it, and then he stuck with it because he felt like it was working. But there's a lot of managers just wouldn't allow coaching staff to have that kind of an influence over what was going on. But going back to the other point that you made about banter merchants say he only won one and that, and I don't really give a shit about that, and I know that you don't either. I know that's not what you were referring to. I think what might be bothering you, because it bothers me, is when like you serious analysts who you actually have some respect for, and they start that discussion,
exactly that,
and it's completely missing the point. It's completely missing the point. If you're judging it purely on like trophies won, well, because I just watched Match of the Day from last weekend, and Ian Wright, as much as he could without like, he said something along the lines of, because he was talking about like Klopp's achievements and that, and he said he basically said, if City get found guilty of all of this, then they've stolen trophies from Klopp, which he deserved to win. He was basically saying he deserved to win more, and if it comes to like that City have broken all these rules, then like it's a legitimate beef for Klopp to be feeling like he's being robbed of trophies. But we know that he has. But it's what you said there about the rolling points tally over like the 38 games. It wasn't over a season, it was over 2 seasons, but it was a 38 game rolling points tally, and we dropped, was it 4 points?
4 points, yeah. 2, basically drew 136 and drew 2.
So that's basically like an all-time record, isn't it? No one's ever done that, but no one ever talks about that. That never gets referenced at all. It's just
10% better than City did. 10% better than City did in the Centurion season.
But all of that gets forgotten. Like all the bullshit about, oh yeah, it was a COVID title. Yeah, and we were like, what, 25 points clear when COVID hit? Yeah. Something like that. It's all just like nonsense like that.
125 out of 26 off first.
Yeah. I mean, we were so far ahead. The idea
City
that like
up.
it's a COVID title, it's like, fuck off. But he's not getting, I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves in terms of how good he's been, but I do think it's acknowledged. I mean, look at the fuss that was made over his farewell, where that got like far more coverage than City winning the title did. Nobody gave a shit about that, but people were tuning in to watch that, even like non-Liverpool fans. So it's
and the Wolves fans staying to watch as well.
Yeah, like, some of them did,
and he fascinates people, doesn't he?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's like I think recognition is not the right word. He does get recognition. He gets the recognition he deserves. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves, because people are just judging it on like how many trophies. But even that, it's like, it's ridiculous, because he's won a fucking load of trophies.
Yeah.
He has won a load of trophies. Yeah. It's not like he's won one trophy. He's got like one fucking bit of silverware. He's won loads of stuff. Now, he should have won a hell of a lot more if he'd have been playing on a level playing field. But, you know, his achievements still stack up there with, like, the vast majority of managers.
It's those 2 Champions League finals, isn't it?
Yeah, if we'd just got one of those.
Yeah. You know, I don't think the conversation would be framed in the same way if we'd had 2 European Cups. What people need to remember, of course, is that, there's only one Premier League, but that one Premier League stops it being Manchester City 7 in a row. Like, that's whatever league you want to be derogatory about, be it the Dutch, the Scottish, the French, whatever. That is the same levels of dominance and disinterest that will be generated if you have 7 in a row. And not only did it stop them having 7 in a row, it actually made seasons interesting, because when we were putting up these record point totals for second place and making City look like they were working hard for it, they were working hard for it. That in itself was like completely, that's overlooked, because otherwise City are waltzing into titles by 20 odd points season after season.
I mean, 97 points in second place is ridiculous, isn't it? It's absolutely ridiculous. And
I should say, people, they can take the piss out of Arsenal all they want. They owe Arsenal, the Premier League owe Arsenal a debt of gratitude too, because if it wasn't for Arsenal, the same problem. Now, you can say that City's dominance is pushing teams to a level of excellence that is, not being seen before, and that's why they are reaching these levels. And I can see why people would want to make that argument, but let's be realistic. It's City have completely, and I don't want to make this a big Man City thing because it's been well covered, but they've distorted the league to the point that teams are putting up 80 late 80s, early 90s, late 90s in our case points and coming up empty. And
coming third with high 80s.
Yeah,
it's mad.
It's absolutely unprecedented, and people can take the piss out of Klopp all they want, but if it wasn't for him, your interest in the Premier League, even if you hate watching and like wanting Liverpool not to win, if without him, your interest in the Premier League is, to quote Phil Leotaro, fucking plummeted, because it's not gonna be interesting, and it's the same now with Arsenal. It's not going to be interesting. You're lucky you've got these teams knocking about, and it's a crime that City are distorted it so much that they've pushed it so far that Klopp built these. We'll probably talk about what's his all-time team, but I think we'd all pretty much come down roughly on the same 11. That team was an all-timer, and it deserved so much more than what it got.
Yeah, it did, Jules.
Yeah. But I mean, it did win plenty, so that's. I do take some comfort in that. Like, imagine if he hadn't come away with the Premier League.
Well, that's what I come back to with that second European Cup, the Kiev one. I think it was a year too early for us. We need. I don't blame Karius, but I think that's maybe. I say maybe. No Real Madrid in the European Cup, to be fair, but I think that's a different outcome if Alisson is in the team at that point.
Or if Salah doesn't get injured early on.
Well,
Ramos had been sent off.
Yeah. But the Paris
we weren't ready,
one.
we kind of accept that we probably weren't ready. We were ahead of schedule getting there. That's probably fair,
yeah.
But Paris, that's the one.
Yeah, that is the one.
That's going to be that's always going to be a tough one to take. But
yeah,
again, we did win a European Cup. It's not like this dominant City has been racking up the European Cups either. It's a hard thing to win. Yeah. It's Real Madrid's competition. It's no one else's competition, and we came up against them twice. They knocked City out this season. It's theirs.
Well, it'd be nice if it was Dortmund's this year, but we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. I wouldn't be putting any money on it, to be honest, because there's just something about them in the European Cup. I mean, it's their competition. There's no other way of saying it. They'll be upset if they don't win their 15th.
Freaky things happen that just are not explainable. It's weird. But so let's go back to the beginning. Obviously everybody's excited when he come in, but it was that first press conference, wasn't it? Where that set the tone for him just always knowing what to say.
Yeah,
I mean, that first press conference was just incredible. Just like saying all the right things, and by the end of that, I think we were all like, "Oh, here we go! We're onto something here. This is going to be great." And it was. And like some of the things he said, like, I think I always remember. And he said this, and it's like, I don't know why he said it, whether he believed it or if it was just, he says things to boost people's confidence and that. I remember, like, right at the beginning, he was talking about, like, the squad that he inherited, and he was saying, he said loads of times since that, nobody liked the team and the team themselves didn't like the team and all that. And that was all true. So he come in, and the first thing he was doing was bigging up some of the players and saying, I wanted to sign this player when I was at Dortmund and I really like this player. And so he talked up like a lot of the players. And I always remember, and he was asked about Divock Origi, and the quote was, he said, "We're going to have so much fun with this player." Yeah. And you look at how it actually played out. Yeah. He's never a regular. He's like probably not good enough because like you can't even get in the Forest team. But we're going to have so much fun with this player, and the fun that we had.
The all-time iconic moments that Divock gave us.
It's right up there with anything that anybody's ever
in
done.
Our history.
It's not even just one.
No. It's amazing.
He's got a collection of them.
It's amazing.
Despite never being like seen as like. Well, there was probably a spell before he got that injury where he did look like he was going to nail down a place and he was going to be really good, but it never happened for him. And yet, we did have so much fun with this player. And, it's just one of those things. Klopp says these things, and then like years later, you look back at it and you go, fucking hell.
I totally agree with that. Do you know the one that stood in my mind at the time, and I thought, he believes that, was when he talked about winning the league within 4 years.
Yeah. Well, he said titles, didn't he? He said we'll win a few titles, and then people were going, no, titles just means a trophy, like it's a translation thing. He just means trophies, because none of us dared to believe that a manager was coming in and going, yeah, we'll win a couple of titles, of course. Yeah. We're like, whoa, hang on, mate, you don't know how long we haven't won one for. Wait a second. It was
the way he said it as well, though. This just sort of like
dead casual.
Yeah, dead casual, but like sincere. He wasn't giving it the big one. He was just like, well, yeah, that is what I'm going to do. I mean,
Matter of fact.
Yeah, but exactly, Jules. Matter of fact, that's exactly what it was. I mean, I think just the point on Divock, I was thinking as you were talking earlier, Dave, about some of the bits and pieces you were saying, and then when you mentioned Divock, we were talking about Klopp's strengths, and it's one that we've all talked about routinely, really, I suppose, over the years, but it does bear repeating. He is the most incredible developer of talent, maybe ever in the history of the game. I've never known anything like it. The players that he takes from very modest backgrounds and turns them into world beaters, and virtually to a man, they leave him and fall off a cliff afterwards. And his career is littered with examples. There's maybe 4 players who haven't fallen off a cliff when they no longer play for Jurgen. Now, I am slightly worried about what happens next as a result.
Well, maybe we'll have 4 players who do well next year then, and the rest are all going to be shit.
But it's almost kind of like, it's almost a little bit sort of freaky, the impact that he has on individual players and the extent that he improves them. They move a million miles when they play for him. Yeah. And they do become world class. Andy Robertson from Hull, getting relegated with Hull to the best left back in the world. That's just the first example that came into my mind, but we could all pick out loads of them, couldn't we? It's absolutely incredible what he does, and I think I don't think that's ever quite been appreciated outside the club. I think lots of pundits do recognise all the other stuff, but that sheer ability to develop talent is something that they talk in terms of the value for money signings, people outside the club. What they don't talk about is how he takes these clear talents and these people who are hungry, but he hones them into something way beyond what anyone, including some of these players themselves, ever expected. It really is amazing. He talked about us being the superpower of world football, and what a quote, by the way, that was on Sunday. Fucking hell, that was amazing. But in some ways, that's his superpower, is what he does to individual footballers. And it's young players, it's more established players. You look at Endo when he's coming. If you're not telling me Endo's been playing that quality of football his entire career since he's come in the door at 30. He can do it with pretty much everybody. Unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely. And then you see what happens when players leave. I mean, loads of those Dortmund players were bought by like bigger clubs for big money.
Yeah.
Hey, we got a glimpse of it when Sahin came on loan.
Yeah. And Kagawa went to United and did nothing.
Yeah.
There's loads of others. Obviously, Lewandowski's a big exception to that. I think Hummels did quite well, but
Gundogan, but that
Gundogan,
that's it really.
Gudongan,
yeah, not to Dan.
Yeah, but as you said, it's like it's a handful, and then everyone else is just bombed, and Origi's just a great example of it. Like Origi before Klopp did really nothing. He was on loan in France and he got named in like the worst 11 of the season. He comes here, shows some flashes, but nothing really. And then you look at him under Klopp, and then you look at everywhere else he's been. It's like, it's just how did that happen? How has this player got these like amazing, incredible moments? And it's the Klopp factor, just what he's able to just get out of people. Gini Wijnaldum, well, he signs an attacking midfield player who's known for scoring goals. He turns him into something completely different, and he's like a revelation for us. And then, Gini left and never really hit anything like those heights again.
Yeah.
There's loads of examples of it. And
look, even someone like Sadio, who, Sadio, you couldn't say Sadio was a modest talent when we signed him. Sadio looked really, really dangerous when he was at Southampton.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think anyone thought of him as a world-class talent.
Could have gone either way. If the different manager, could have gone either way.
Yeah, but then came here and just was almost unplayable. Absolutely unplayable, incredible player. And then left and went to Bayern. Looked a great move for him on paper, that, didn't it? A good, different league, good club to go to, and it just
didn't he punch a teammate at Bayern?
Yeah, Sané, wasn't
Sané,
it? Leroy Sané.
That's fair enough, though. That's the old Man City rivalry coming out, isn't it? You cheeky bastard, you fucking robbed me of a title.
The quality of I don't think the quality of the performance was there either. I don't think he fell off a cliff. Wouldn't be fair to Sadio there, I don't think. But I don't think he was pulling up trees. He was having a couple of moments, but he wasn't delivering consistently. And now he's just gone to that graveyard in Saudi Arabia, hasn't he? Unfortunately.
Wait, hang on. Which graveyard in Saudi Arabia are you talking about there? It's like, where the bodies are buried. I don't understand.
But half of our title winning teams over there now. That's where they've all ended up after leaving Klopp.
Yeah, I will tell you what, you just reminded me. I didn't come back to it. Just on Hendo, you're right. I think you and Chris mentioned it on the last pod. Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to sing, and I did feel petty. I did honestly. I considered it. I should, as I was keeping my mouth shut, I thought I should sing this. It is fucking petty not singing his name. I couldn't bring myself to though.
Yeah,
honestly, I couldn't bring myself to.
Like I said to Chris, I was like, if you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it. Did you see though? What Carragher said about Henderson and the Klopp tribute video that Sky did.
No. Yeah,
that was. I don't know what to make of that, because on the one hand, I'm thinking
I haven't seen it. What happened?
So, did you see the video that Sky did for Klopp? And he sat down and they showed him it. So they done interviews with loads of current and former players, all saying a message for Klopp, what what he means to them. And Klopp sat down and watched it all. And a few people commented at the time, a bit weird that Henderson wasn't on there. And Carragher said this week on the Stick to Football show, they were talking about Henderson not getting in the England squad, and Carragher just said he doesn't think he's in a good place, and he didn't mean Saudi Arabia. He's not there now anyway. He's in Ajax, isn't he? Did he sign for them? Or was he on loan?
Loan.
Right, so we may have to go back there. But no, he said he doesn't think he's in a good place mentally, and the reason he said that was because he said he reached out to him to get him to do a little video tribute to Klopp like everyone else was doing, and he said he didn't do it. He didn't go into details about what was said or anything, but he didn't do it, and I got the impression he wasn't really in a good place and maybe didn't want to talk to any of the British press or whatever. And on the one hand, I'm thinking, no, you ungrateful bastard, you should have just done it. On the other, I think for him to not do it, maybe there is something going on. Maybe he's really not in a good place mentally. I don't know. So I don't want to go in too hard on him on that, because it seems out of character that he wouldn't do that. It seems very out of character.
I agree with you, Dave. I watched that as well, and I did. And Carragher seemed, as far as Carragher ever gets, seemed
choosing
his words
carefully, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Just back on my feet, I don't bear him any ill will, but I did feel let down by him.
You just lost respect for him, I think.
Yeah, I did. I cared about all that rainbow laces stuff. I really cared about that. Like most people, I've got really important people in my life who are gay, and that's important to me. And I don't want to be hearing somebody who's been a real advocate then just completely throw it in everyone's faces. Now, I accept he's a human being. I accept it. See, he probably made a big mistake that he regrets. He's been badly advised. He's handled even trying to repair it badly as well. The whole thing's been a car crash for him. I don't want to rub his nose in it. I don't want to be horrendous. But I just couldn't bring myself. I couldn't bring myself to sing his name. And I did feel a little bit sad and a little bit petty as well. But it was almost like a point of principle. It was no, that stuff is important. You were talking about really important stuff and then you shat all over it. And I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to cheer to the rafters. I still think of him as a great player. I still think of him as a great captain. I still think he was a hugely influential and crucial figure in one of the greatest teams that's ever played the game in this country. But some of the respect is gone. I don't think he'll ever come back.
In terms of him not doing the tribute to Klopp, I think what bothered me more than anything is if there's beef there and that's why he didn't want to do it, and I'm not saying there is, but I don't think like they maybe saw eye to eye at the end the way it went down. But I don't know if like they've buried the hatchet or whatever. But if there is still like a bit of a grievance there, you would never ever know based on everything that Klopp said about it all.
Yeah.
I feel like he's gone out of his way to really stick up for Henderson, and you know, and I just felt like, okay, you don't want to talk to press, but could you not have just done like a little 30-second?
I interpreted it as his mental health has dipped a bit, Dave. It came across as like he's struggling with his mental health and his head's gone. And I didn't read it as beef. I read it as I didn't read it as a problem with Klopp. I read it as like he's really kind of. No,
same. I'm just saying, if that was his reason for not doing it, you know, we don't know. We don't know why he didn't do it. I just think it was a little bit off that he didn't, but hopefully it's, you know, there's nothing too serious going on there.
Yeah, agreed. I wouldn't want him to be suffering or to be ill or anything like that. Absolutely not.
But yeah, that was one of many like video things that came out last week. You know, just emotional, and then this week there's the one with him opening the letters. That was like,
yeah, God.
You know, the funny thing is, like, my dad has not watched any of it. My dad like can't bring himself to watch it. He's like, no, it's too sad. He still hasn't watched like the you know, the speech and stuff from the end of the game. He's just avoided it all. And I've been like recommending different videos to him, saying, no, that's not sad. This is good. Watch this one, Dad. Watch this. I spoke to him tonight. I said, like, have you watched that video yet with him and the coaching staff? That was really good. He went, no. He said, I watched one with him opening some letters. I was like, no, that's the last one you want to be watching. That's like the saddest one he's done. Don't be watching that. He was like, yeah, it was really sad. I don't think I'm going to watch any more for a while. I was like, that's because you picked the wrong one. But no, I mean, that one was like that, and his Instagram video of packing up his office were like the two that probably got me the most. But loads of the other stuff's just been really good, really interesting and funny, and you know, I think there's been some amazing content like the last week or so.
Do you know what I'd say? And another sign really of the fella that he is. Some of that stuff could feel manipulative or overly saccharine, or you know, it just, or schmaltzy, or you know what I mean?
The stuff put out by the club, you mean? Like
yeah, but it doesn't, because it's him.
No.
Because it's him. And you know, and clearly he didn't know, they'd chosen those letters that they could put in front of him. He was reading those for the first time, and they'd been hand-picked for him because they were thinking, we'll get a range of really good reactions from Jurgen over all of this. I don't think they were necessarily thinking, let's make him cry, but they knew there was going to be some that were emotional in there. But it all just, the responses are so human and so natural and so genuine that it's just, again, you just marvel at what a really decent human being he is. You know, I just wish the world had more Jurgen Klopps in it, because he is such a decent man.
See, the thing with that is like, I hope they don't put Arne Slot in too many situations where he's expected to be doing like loads of content and that the way Klopp's done, because I feel like that's not going to do him any favours, at least not until he's
Gotta let him
bedded
find his
in and
feet,
he's
haven't they?
comfortable. Yeah, don't be trying to force stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
it worked
agreed.
with Klopp because Klopp's Klopp, and
They
everything
won't
you do
though. They
is going to work.
usually get that kind of
They
stuff
do,
right,
yeah.
don't they?
No, I do feel
And they
like
built
that.
up to it with Klopp as well, didn't they? It wasn't like this 8.5 years ago.
Yeah, but the content
social
wasn't,
stuff's got.
it wasn't as big a deal then as it is
No,
now.
it wasn't. That's right.
Now, like,
And Klopp has always been a pitch man. He's always like had deals with, you know, Adidas and Erdinger and things that he had those even when he was in Germany, and he was on German TV doing punditry and stuff like that occasionally. So it's his sort of media personality and as a pitchman and all that kind of stuff is more well known. So it just lends itself more. I don't think the club will push Slot into any of that kind of stuff early doors.
Hopefully not, because I don't think it'd be fair to him. Because all it'd take is
we'd all see through it as well. It'd be pointless.
Imagine like if he does something that doesn't come across that well, it's a bit cringy, and you just know all like the
Brendan factor.
Yeah, the Dutch Brendan stuff will be coming out. So yeah, just keep him away from all that to start with. Just let him do his job and
curate it very carefully.
Keep all that to a minimum.
You can subscribe to the Liverpool Way podcast on all the major platforms, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon or Podbean. Just search for the Liverpool Way, leave us a review and hit subscribe to automatically receive all new episodes. You can also head to liverpoolway.co.uk and grab a TLW season ticket for just £3 a month. There's tons of exclusive content, including match reports from every Liverpool game, weekly Premier League roundups, the TLW diary and access to the members-only forum. Lastly, you can follow us on social media at The Liverpool Way on Twitter and at The Liverpool Way TLW on Instagram and Facebook.
Right, let's go back to the key signings, like, and how he built the team. Like, I think Sadio is probably the one that kicked it off.
Yeah.
And it was one each year to get us to the point where, that the team was how he wanted. But Sadio coming in was like the start of it, really, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think my abiding memory of Sadio was I don't even know why
that much of an abiding memory.
Why have I started down this line? Because I can't remember the game. All I remember is this blister for Southampton, this blistering pace and power and shot.
Probably against us.
It was against us. Yeah, it would have been against us, and I can't remember the game or the score, or even if he did score. But I just remember him being this kind of like this just bristling physical presence. And,
definitely against us.
Didn't he? He beat Fowler's record, didn't he, for the quickest hat trick?
That
wasn't against us, but
no, he did. He had the Premier League record for it. Yeah,
and then I think did he get a hat trick against us? I thought he did.
He scored. I'm sure he scored 2.
Yeah.
He was just toss a new one down that wing.
Yeah.
With him, he was almost like that. The thing that I've always found strange prior to Jurgen is that I always felt that you want to, and Wenger did it with his first great team, and then he sort of moved away from it. I want a team that's full of absolute physical specimens in every way, and they're clever, and they're technically good. I mean, why do you want to like compromise on any elements of what can make a really great player? You might have 1 or 2 in a team that aren't like 6-footers. You might have 1 or 2 who aren't lightning quick, but I want in almost every player as a prerequisite, if you want to be an elite team, and that's what we should always want to be as Liverpool, is I want absolutely blistering pace, I want aggression, I want power, and I want skill, and I want intel. You want the whole package. And when Sadio came in, to me that was like, oh right, we're not settling in any area. This is a player who's got everything you want in a footballer. He's clever, he's aggressive, he's powerful, he's fast, he's deadly in front of goal. He doesn't give up, he'll go until he drops. There were no obvious weaknesses to his game, and I thought, oh, this is the way to go. And then, that did become something of a benchmark, really. Lots of our players, not quite to that same extent, but lots of our players were peak physical specimens as well as being talented players. And I think that for me was what was so impressive about Sadio coming in. And he did have a pretty rapid impact, didn't he? He arrived and played really well straight away. I mean, I remember you, Dave, you were making, and it's not quite 100% accurate, but you were making John Barnes comparisons with him quite early on.
I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't think they're not like for like players, are they? But I think it was. I think I maybe you were just talking in the sense of how dangerous he was really, and maybe, you know, we'd not had a player like that since Barnes, who was so consistently dangerous. But I think that kind of resonated with me at the time, and I think since then, you know, we've had conversations whereby, well, Stu said the other week that he would have him ahead of Barnes in his all-time 11.
Not for me.
Certainly. Yeah, not for me either, but he's only just behind, and that really is as high praise as you can give. Really, I think if he's up there all time with Johnny Barnes for our greatest ever team, incredible talent.
So that season he played on the right, and then the follow. So we think we finished fourth that year, did we? I know we got in the Champions League. I think we finished fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the next piece of the puzzle, especially with the front three, was Mo coming in, and then Sadio switches. So, I mean, Mo had a decent reputation when he came in, leaving aside like it didn't work out at Chelsea. He'd done well in Italy, and I feel like it was an exciting signing, and I don't think people were underwhelmed by it. But nobody had any idea it was gonna turn out the way it has.
I mean, how could you though? I mean, that was it. 44 goals in that first season, was it?
Yeah,
44.
So that first season, he had 44, and Bobby and Sadio had mid to late 20s, both of them as well. So like that was the dawn of like, well, it was literally the dawn of the front three because it was the first season together.
That's fucking mad. But
and to me, that first season, that was probably the most exciting football we played or under Klopp for me. I know we've been more successful in other years. But, you know, Jules, like, you've got a better memory than us. Like, what do you remember about when Mo signed? What were people thinking? Because I felt like there were some people focusing on the Chelsea reject, but most people thought, yeah, it's a good signing. He's done well in Italy. But, I mean, what he went on to become is like, no one saw that coming, surely.
I don't recall a lot of the Chelsea reject shots. I seem to recall people, like, remarking that we just gone back in the bookmarks folder to find someone we hadn't signed. You know, we'd had an interest before, like, we just we'll go and get him again. But, you know, he was at Chelsea for what? It's hard to remember time frames. Like 2014, I think. It was around 2014. Brendan was still here.
Didn't he play in the Gerrard slip game? Didn't he come on?
I don't recall, but he was there around that time, and then they sent him out on loan, as Chelsea wanted to do, and I think he went to Fiorentina before he went to Roma.
Yeah,
a couple of years there, I think.
I think obviously that loan season at Roma is what persuaded Roma to buy him, and I know he had like a 1-2 record at Roma, I think. So like his goal scoring record was far superior. Like I didn't know that at the time when we signed him. I just thought he was going. You know, we'd wanted him before. And you sort of go, right, well, we wanted him before. We clearly revisited. You know, he's always been on our radar. We feel it. We've got a chance to get him, so we're going to go get him. And at the time, I think Klopp said, who did he want to stay? It wasn't good. Was it Goetze or was it Brandt?
Was when we got Sadio.
Was it Brandt?
Brandt, yeah.
Or was it Drax? I can't remember. It was one of these players. I think
it was
Brandt.
Yeah.
Let's just say it was Brandt for the sake of it. So, but he was persuaded by the stat department, the scouting department, that obviously they'd had Mo on their radar for a while, that Mo was the way to go. And again, like I didn't know his record if Roma was 1-2, and so I thought we were going to be getting, you know, I figured they knew what they would do, you know, because by this point Sadio's come in and has been gangbusters. You sort of think, right, okay, so I think we know what we're doing, and Klopp's coaching players up to be better than they are. It was evident in those first couple of year and a half before that was happening. But there's no one's ever going to be predicting that Mo Salah would turn out to be the player he's become, the goal record he's got, you know, for Liverpool, and not like that first season. Did you? I suppose was he got like 150 odd goals for us or something like in the league, or is it in the old competitions? I'm not sure. It's like 150 something.
He's got 200.
So it must be. So it must be. Well, I'll have a look in a second. It might be league.
100 league goal. I don't know. No, he must have 200. Surely.
He got his. Didn't he get his 200 this season?
So it must have about 100. He must have 150 odd league goals then. No, that doesn't sound right. Anyway, that does sound right. I suppose 5 years at 30 odd goals. But I think I certainly, in the back of my mind after his first season, was thinking when he'd scored those 40, like, is this
207 goals, all comps.
Yeah, okay, so it's about 150 odd in the league then.
Yeah, something like that.
So, but I remember thinking, like, is this actually his level, or is it going to dip back a little bit? Because it was so astonishing, and no one had thought it was going to be there. And it sort of it dipped back ever so slightly, but like still to a tremendous level. But not only that, his all-round game, like he's like fifth in the league for like assists. They call them goal involvements now because he used to go goals and assists. He's like fifth in the league this season, whatever, for goal involvement. Even at the age he is, with the injuries he's had. So his game is like, as the speed has sort of decreased in that, and yes, I know he's not had a great season in front of goal, relatively speaking, but his game evolved throughout the year. He got, he's like, there's not an ounce of fat on him. He's like dedicated to being the best that he can be. He's become like, am I going? No, I don't think I'm going too far when I say he's become a global superstar. Like, he's obviously a superstar in, like, the Arab world and Africa and all that, and in the Premier League. But I think everyone knows.
He had that big billboard up in Times Square, didn't he?
Well, I think everyone knows who Mo Salah is now.
Yeah.
And not everyone, people who knew back then. He was well known, but he's up there now with the biggest names in the game, and
the icons, yeah.
Yeah, icon. That's exactly it. He is for Egypt. Like, the pressure of playing for Egypt is massive. And
well, did you see, Jules? I think you said there. Just sorry, I'll hand back to you again in a second. Just on your point there about, and I think you're right. He's had by context, a relatively modest season. It's not been a great season, but hasn't he? He's just broken the record for consecutive seasons getting 20 goals or more in all competitions. I think it's 7. He's just done 7 seasons, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I think that's a club record, and I think is he equal, or is it a league record? And he's gone past Shearer and Thierry Henry or something. I mean, even as he's dipping, he's still breaking records. Sorry, Jules, back to you.
Yeah, I can't remember what I was saying now. But I don't think anyone ever thought that he was going to be the player he was going to become, and that's testament to him, as a dedicated footballer, as a professional. But it's also testament to how Klopp has used him as well, and whatever the touchline spat, again, a slightly unedifying end to it. But again, it looks like it's all fine now. And Mo looked a bit like he was welling up when Klopp was saying goodbye.
Yeah, he did.
On the pitch there. Perhaps no player symbolises the Klopp era more than Mo Salah, to be honest. Not just because he's like world famous, not because he's become a global icon or whatever. Just because you take a player that's good and you make him great. And you can't make a player great if the player doesn't want to be great themselves, if they don't want to be dedicated to it as well. Like, you can have, like, the other side of the coin, the other way you could look at it, like someone like Sacco, who did not take it seriously and who was given his marching orders very quickly because it was clear he was an unserious footballer. He was not going to take instruction. He was not going to adhere to what Klopp wanted. So he was gone. And then on the other side, you've got someone like Mo, who, looks after himself the best he can, was barely injured. He's only getting injured now as he's getting older, which is obviously natural. And then dedicated himself to being like the very best. And people can point to the selfishness and all that in front of goal, but like, he was lethal. Some of the goals he scored, like the goal against Spurs that he scored, the goal against Manchester City, like when he dances around them, like anything Messi has done is that's on the same level in terms of technical ability. It's absolutely astonishing, and I think probably he does sum up like the Klopp era in the best way. An absolute player who wants to be the very, very best with a manager who's able to make them the very, very best results in one of the best footballers we've ever had. It's astonishing.
Agreed.
So when he got the 44, you said about like people were wondering, can he keep that up? I actually thought he would, and the reason I thought he'd keep it up was because he got 44 goals. He missed a shitload in that season as well, which made me think, because we were saying, like, he scored 44 goals and he's not a great finisher. He misses loads of chances as well. So
I remember
thought,
that conversation.
This many chances, he can carry on. And if he starts getting a little bit more like lethal in front of goal, and how many will he score? But obviously it didn't work out like that. He dropped off.
And
a
I
bit.
think, like you look at the chances he's missed this season. I think it is just part of his process, part of his game. It's never going to. He's never going to be like as lethal as we think he should be. I just don't think that's his game.
He's just not now, is he? Not at this age.
No, but no. Again, it's an age thing as well. But like it's more like the goals have sort of slowed down, but the misses remain the same level. So the misses now look a lot worse than they did when he was scoring 44 goals.
Yeah, but excuse the pun. I think to focus on that, and I know you're not focusing on that, Jules. You're just pointing out a fact. It misses the point of the player. I mean, why would you look at an all-time great like that and focus on the things that he can't do? I've never understood that. Why would you look at a giant in the history of?
Well, Stu's not on to ask, unfortunately.
I just find it strange. I just don't know. The heights are so high. Why? I don't care about the lows. I really don't.
Does anyone else? Does anyone else disagree that he's like the epitome of the Klopp?
No, I thought it was a great way of summing it up, Jules. I could think of some other examples, but for different reasons. I think in some ways, Trent, in a very different way, epitomises an element of Klopp. But I think your rationale, Jules, was absolutely spot on about it.
He's intrinsically linked with it, isn't he?
Yeah. Trent really represents the youth thing. Take a player from the academy and turn him into a world-class talent. But Mo very much epitomises the point you were making. Yeah, sums it up nicely.
I'd probably say Robbo. I feel like he's got a very similar mindset to Klopp. It's he's 100 mile an hour. Yeah,
I think Robbo works as well. It works as another example. I mean, doesn't this come back to the essential point? Is that his ability to extract the absolute maximum out of virtually every player? It's bizarre.
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
When did Robbo sign? Was it the same summer as Sadio, or was it the season after?
No,
season
it was
after.
It was with Mo, wasn't it? Same season.
Yeah, it was with Mo.
So it was the season after.
I'll check, but
and then in the winter,
it was Mo, Jules,
that was when we got Virgil in the winter.
Virgil, we were supposed to get Virgil in the summer, and we fell out with Southampton because of Blackpool or whatever it was, and
clandestine meetings in Blackpool.
Yeah. And then we finally did it in the January transfer window, didn't we?
Yeah. So that was really like that 12-month period where
the team was transformed.
Yeah. So you get Mo, Robbo, then Virgil comes in the winter, then the following summer, that's when Alisson arrives and Fabinho.
Yeah.
Coutinho leaves, obviously, in the winter when Virgil
the Fabinho signing as well, like, let's not forget, was like less than 2 days after the Champions League. So we're all down about that Kiev defeat. And then the next thing is like, we're signing Fabinho for 50 million from Monaco, defensive midfielder, and we're sort of like, fucking hell, we're not pissing about. We're just going straight after it again.
It's just what we needed. It was that shot in the arm we needed after losing the final. And Fabinho, I mean, he doesn't get spoken about anywhere near enough because he was a transformational player. Like the impact that he made was like over.
His highs were probably more short-lived than anybody else's, weren't they?
Than everyone else. Yeah, you're looking at like over like maybe he had like a 3-year peak.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
he was colossal in those.
The impact he had in that time was just phenomenal.
I mean, I think the one for me, boys, is I felt it before we got him, and I felt it ever since. Virgil was the one for me. He is the best defender I've ever seen.
Well, you know why?
He's just so absolutely complete, and I was absolutely convinced before we got him that he was going to be perfect for us, and he has been. He's just, I've never seen it in every single way. He is the perfect modern defender. He hasn't got a weakness to his game. It's bizarre. He's just incredible, and I think I really do think he is one who could continue at the top for years to come. He could play for years at this level, I think, because he's so good.
The Virgil signing is because, Dave talked about it, like our football was thrilling, but it lacked that little bit of control, didn't it? Like we were conceding too many goals. The games were too fierce. Virgil coming in that first half season, I mean, first of all, to make the mark of scoring the winner as a defender on your debut in a derby, in a cup match. But then, as you know, even that with on the way to Kiev, like we beat Roma, but we were 5-0 up, and then we conceded 3. The control wasn't it. It was only the season after Kiev, when Fabinho was in, that the control, like Virgil with Alisson, with Fabinho, it sort of solidified the base where suddenly we were almost unbeatable. But Virgil's that level of calmness and control, that's what it was.
That thing you say round about maybe a few weeks further on, just in pre-season every summer, you always make this point, either on the pod or just when we're chatting or whatever. Everyone loves a big transfer. I don't think
it was 2 days after Christmas as well. What a Christmas present!
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that was such a statement. Don't you just? It's not that like. It's not I've never wanted Liverpool to be a club that's constantly splashing the money. I've never wanted us to be breaking transfer records every week. But when you make a statement signing like that, you just go absolutely balls out for a player that you know is going to be transformational and is transformational, and you smash records to get him, and then he becomes this world class all-time talent when he comes in. That's fucking great. That it just gives everyone a buzz. Do you remember how exciting it was when it wasn't just the player, it was the fact that we broke the record to get him as well. Yeah. There is something about that for me that I think that was all part of the buzz around the club, about the sense of forward momentum, about the fact that, here we go. There is something to be said for that. I don't think not even most signings can be that way, but there is something about sometimes a statement signing. And it can't just be a statement in terms of the money. It's got to be a statement in terms of the quality and then subsequently the impact. And Virgil was all of that. And that really was... That's probably why he's the one for me. It's that whole package. He was absolutely fantastic. Still is fantastic.
The funny thing is, like, you look at how that all played out and that season and what we went on to achieve, and Coutinho left in the January and missed all of it. But then it doesn't happen if he doesn't leave, because we use that money really wisely.
I remember doubting Klopp for that. I was saying at the time, I think it's a mistake. We should make him stay.
Yeah.
And I reached the point where that was one of the things that I think. What was the other one?
There's another player whose career went downhill after leaving.
Absolutely. Klopp. I remember thinking, I'm just not going to stop questioning Klopp about football stuff, because he just. He does these counterintuitive things. You think, what's he doing? Like play James Milner at left back, for a full
season,
He's not just like winging it. He's not just kind of making it. It's all right. It's fucking great. It works really, really well. These things don't just sort of like, we're not just holding on by our fingertips with these sort of make do and mend solutions. They go really, really well. I think you mentioned it on the pod at the weekend the other day. The two lads at centre half when we had nobody fit. I mean, they played really well. Nat Phillips and Reece Williams. It wasn't like they were winging it week by week, and we were creaking. They rose to the occasion. He always finds a way to make it work, and I think that Coutinho one at the time, I thought, oh no, this is mad. We've signed Salah. Salah's banging the goals in. Let's keep him. Let's make him stay and go in 6 months.
And Coutinho was brilliant as well.
Yeah, he was. He was
because he was playing deeper behind the front three. So we had the front three and we had Coutinho, and it was working. He was in great form. And then I do feel like for the rest of that season, I felt like we did miss him a bit, and especially you get to the final and Mo gets injured, and you're having to put Adam Lallana in the front three. That would have been a perfect situation where if you'd still had Coutinho, you just slot him in there and you're not losing out like massively. But the signings that followed, they're probably not happening if Coutinho doesn't go. So, he's played his part in our success indirectly, and it's just come at like a total cost to himself. Because you said it went downhill. I don't know about going downhill. It just fucking
on the bench at Aston Villa.
Yeah.
When I always use the phrase "players fall off a cliff" after Klopp, he's the one. That phrase comes from Coutinho in my mind. He's the one I always think is emblematic of players falling off a cliff, because he did fall off a cliff.
Yeah. But the flip side of that, when we're saying about how he gets the most out of players and that, well, you just mentioned like Nat Phillips and Reece Williams. They're perfect examples. We went on a run of I think we won 10 out of 12 games, and we may have drew one of the others, or we were unbeaten in 12, something mad like that with them two at centre back, and it got us to third in the league. Now, if you look at what's happened to both of them since, like, Nat's been on loan at Celtic and he was horrendous. Celtic fans hated him. He was a laughingstock up there. So he was at Bournemouth in the Championship. He did well there. They got promoted, but he was playing in the Championship. This season, I think he was at Cardiff. So he's not been able to get like a decent Premier League move. And yet, look at what he did. He was playing for the team that finished third and playing well, making a big contribution. Reece Williams as well. You know, Reece Williams has gone out on loan and it's just not worked out. Gone on loan in like the lower leagues and it's not gone well.
And Nat Phillips did well in spite of a big limitation at this level, which is his complete lack of pace.
Reece Williams hasn't really got a great deal of pace either, but they both did really well. And again, that's the Klopp effect. What he got out of those two players...
Making me worry for Kwanzaa. They did play
really well. The performances were really good, and you watch them there, and you think, how have they not got a move to like a decent caliber club? And it's because you take them away from us, and they're not that good. Because otherwise, clubs would be lining up to take them.
So, are you hoping that all these players won't drop off a cliff because they haven't actually left the club?
That's all you can hope for, because the alternative just doesn't bear thinking about.
Yeah, as I say, you're making me worry for Kwanzaa.
Yeah.
You know.
No,
no, Joey Barton can vouch for him.
Yeah.
Oh well, yeah. Go.
No, so that was the team was in place then once Fabinho and Alisson came, and I think that was. Didn't really bring anybody in after that who forced their way into the team. That was the team then, wasn't it?
So sort of bit part players after that.
Like,
so are we going to talk about our old time?
Yeah. I was just going to get onto that because that was one of the questions. I mean, we'll get to the questions in a bit, but we may as well do that one now because I think we're probably all in agreement about what the 11 would be. So I'll just quickly go through, and if you disagree with any, then let me know. So obviously, Alisson, Trent, Virgil, Joel. Robbo, Fabinho, Hendo, Gini, Mo, Bobby, Sadio, and
agreed.
James Milner not being in there pains me massively, but that would be the 11. And they only played together once.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't it a stat that team only played together once? Yes, fucking crazy.
I mean, it's hard to believe. Now, you can maybe put that partly down to the fact that Joel had so many injuries. But even so, for that 11 to have only played together once, and that is the 11 that we would all name, isn't it? You know, I'd like to get Milner in.
It's not Wijnaldum's fault, is it? Because he was always fit.
Yeah.
You
know, Sadio and Mo were always fit as well, but they were away at AFCON like every 2 years. But no, it's mad that team only played together once.
And you are right about the Milner shout as well, Dave, because Milner, not just in spirit, in quality, in intelligence, in character, all of it. He's like he completely is synonymous with that great team in my mind.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't quite make the.
You
11.
know what he'd be?
No.
Two things on James Milner. He'd be like the sixth man of the year in the NBA.
Yeah.
And James Milner has had a contract extension at Brighton, whereas Lallana's now leaving Brighton.
Yeah.
So even at like 39, James Milner's still getting.
He's going to get that record, isn't he, next season?
Yeah, well, but like
it
speaks volumes for the man that he's like, Lallana's not getting, he's leaving Brighton, but no, Milner's like still keep on trucking down there. But he's definitely like the NBA sort of style, sixth man of the year. He'd be him or Origi, I suppose, for the substitute.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's testament to the team though. There's not really much debate about it, right?
Yeah.
I
feel we should also. I mean, he doesn't get in the team, but I'd quite like to shout out Joe Gomez as well, because he's the only player who has been there throughout the entirety of the Klopp era. He was there. He was the only player who was there.
Yeah.
Title season, he played a lot in that title season.
And he was the only one who was there when Klopp arrived that is still there now.
Yeah.
So he played all the way through, and is a great player in my opinion. He's a great Liverpool footballer. He's just not quite good enough to get into that 11 that we talked about, but he certainly is. He's worthy of mention.
But again, Paul, he did play most of the title season.
Yeah, it was great, wasn't he? Centre half for Virgil that season.
Yeah, but it's injuries. He missed time. Joel missed time, and but if you're thinking about like the 11, you're taking Joel over Gomez.
I think so. Yeah, just because he offers you that. I mean, I think Gomez is more versatile.
Yeah.
But with Joel, it's that kind of going on the mazy one. You know, that ability to break the lines and carry the ball forward. And also, it's just a fucking great defender as well.
Yeah. But I mean, it is a squad game these days. You know, you're not going to win anything with like a great 11. So there's loads of others who played the part, but that's like, if you're picking a team from the Klopp era, I think that's more or less unanimous. I'd be surprised if people have got like a different view to that. But it's just absolutely mental that they only ever played one game together. I wonder what that game was.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Be worth looking that up. It'd be interesting. I bet you it's something mad like Bournemouth away or something like that. It's not like
Do you know the
big
one
game.
The one player we've not really talked much about, who again is another one synonymous with the Klopp era, is the one I think Jurgen thinks is most synonymous with his football, is Bobby. And I found it really fascinating over this last few days the number of times Klopp has referenced Bobby. And he said, "What do you want to do how do you build a great team? You find Bobby Firmino, and you build it around him." I don't think you can overstate the degree to which Klopp loved Bobby and saw him as absolutely crucial to everything that we did.
Didn't he call him the engine of the team or something? There was
something along those lines. Yeah. And a great player, great talent. You know, I think Klopp, when Klopp talks about him, Klopp talks understandably about the work that he puts in. And I think Pep Linders was also talking about this in that interview you referenced earlier, Dave. But when I think of Bobby, some of my fondest memories of Bobby are the sheer audacity of the... I know some people don't like the no-look finishes. I fucking love the no-look finishes. I love that kind of like, take the piss, I'm that good, I can take the piss. But not in a kind of an arrogant way, if that makes sense. Also, that was it the goal against City where he sort of out-muscled John Stones.
Goal.
Yeah, and it just... he was a really, really good goal scorer. He was really good in front of goal. He was classy in front of goal. He scored some great goals, and we don't really think of him as a goal scorer, but he did score a lot of great goals. And I think
so selfless.
Absolutely, and I love this class as much as I think Jurgen. I get the sense I know Jurgen won't pigeonhole him as only being this, but Jurgen loves his intelligence and his work rate and his discipline. And yes, those things are absolutely amazing, but I love this class.
It's interesting with Bob.
And his celebrations.
Yeah, the celebrations.
The kung fu kick.
Like, it was probably last week when I was watching like the interview with Pep, and he was talking about it and that. And like they were saying, it was just everything just came together perfectly. And he said, you know, like Bobby basically invented that position that he played. But you had like the two wingers who made like the inside runs behind, so he drops off, and then you've got like the pace in behind on both sides, so that dynamic was great. Then you had like the two full backs who were playing like nobody else in world football. You know, they were so attacking, and that's
not hyperbole, by the way. That's absolutely true.
It's fact. Yeah, it's fact. The numbers like will back it up, like the amount of assists and stuff. But so Klopp was talking about that as well, and then he keeps. It obviously pissed them off at the time, like people were saying about there's no goals in the midfield, and you know that needs to change. And he's like, you know, you can't have everything. You know, they were sacrificing themselves so
Somebody
other five
could
just go and do like all the damage that they did. And nobody sacrificed himself more than Gini Wijnaldum, by the way, because he had these games where like you'd see he just took it upon himself. He's like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to go forward and score here. And you think, why are you not doing that more often? And it's because he wasn't allowed. It's not what he was in the team to do. He wasn't told to do that.
You know,
and the Barcelona one's the obvious example, but there was other games where he did it as well.
But he got that Barcelona game, I suppose. So whether he might not have scored many goals, but like he got those two against Barcelona, which sort of
because he was pissed off. That's why.
Well, it makes up for it though, doesn't it? Like, you know,
he's come out and he's like, "I'll fucking show you, leaving me out." But I mean, Firmino, we didn't mention him before when we were saying about which player is like, you know, typifies like Klopp's era. You know, a lot of people would probably say Bobby.
I think Klopp does. I guess
he probably would do.
Klopp does, doesn't he?
But it was like that team, that set up, like the tactics, they were all at a good age as well. You know, and that was something else that Pep was saying. Without actually directly coming out and saying it, he said something along the lines of, how things have changed since. He was talking about how it was then, and he's like, but it doesn't stay like that forever because players don't run as much, either because they can't or because they just don't want to anymore. And he didn't name names, but to me it was like, okay, well, the midfielders just kind of ran out of gas and needed replacing, and but we've not. In an ideal world, you'd look at what we do there, like, and you would just find like for like. So you want like your two wingers who want to run in behind and score. Your number 9 drops off. But if those players aren't out there, then you have to go in a different direction, which is kind of what he was saying about like having to change the system because they brought Nunes in who doesn't play it, like dropping off into midfield, and then you've got Diaz replacing Sadio, and he's a different type of player to Sadio. He's not making those runs in behind all the time. Mo's no longer the same player. You've changed the midfield completely. So what we're seeing now, it's probably why Klopp calls it like Liverpool 2.0, is because it is actually completely different to what we had before, and you can't replicate that because you've got to find players who have like the same attributes as those who you're replacing, and you're not going to find like another Sadio Mane, another Mo Salah, another Fabinho, the players who like needed replacing. We've brought in different types, and that's what we've seen the last couple of years. It's like it's different now. You're not going to replicate what we had. That was like, it was special. They did things that have never been done before and may well never be done again. Not by Liverpool teams anyway. I mean, 97 points. Will we ever get 97 points again?
No, I don't think so. I think we should talk about the other thing that I think is huge in the Jurgen Klopp era, which is COVID. The atmosphere at the ground and COVID. The atmosphere at the ground and the relationship with the fans, and how the team and the manager and the fans all came together. Because if I think about coming up as a Red, and some of my fondest memories were being on that standing Kop in the 80s when in the double season, Kenny's first season, and then beyond. Those experiences I've talked about on the pod before, so I won't go over it at length, but going up with a group of mates, you all go up together, get the train over to Sandhills, walk up, queue up to go in the lads' gate, a goal goes in, you're bouncing around all over the place. Amazing memories. But I've got some memories, from as a middle-aged fella, which in some ways surpass those formative memories when I was like 14, 15, 16 years old. The celebrations. I mean, the obvious one of corner taken quickly. Divock and Barcelona, the 4-0 goal, the fourth one on that day. That was absolutely ridiculous celebration. But so was Dortmund. So I mean, there's so many games. I remember how delirious we were in the 7-0, 7-0 against the Manx. Yeah. We watched Liverpool beat the Manx 7-0. Some of those atmospheres in those games are just like nothing. You can't, unless you're in them, you can't even imagine how like all-encompassing and visceral and overwhelming and like ecstatic they are. Absolutely amazing. And also the palpable sense that you did actually in some way affect the game with the roar and the way we kind of got behind the players. I know people from other clubs are sniffy about this and they laugh at it and they mock. But you've got the number of people who don't play for Liverpool, professionals who don't play for Liverpool, or managers who routinely talk about it now. It is a thing. It's definitely a thing. But we know as fans who've been there and those big, all three of us have been in those massive, massive, massive moments. And that connection is real, isn't it? We do have an impact on that team, and that team has an impact on us. And out of that comes something special time after time after time. And that, to me, was at its absolute peak under Jurgen.
Yeah, best time I've had supporting the Reds.
Yeah, Amazing.
Jules, you got anything to add to that?
No, once the crowd gets up, how many times did we bat teams because the first goal went in, and then the crowd got up, in big games, and the crowd got up, and then and then the second and the third would follow in short order because it was just like a maelstrom that the other team couldn't cope with the ferocity of the atmosphere, the ferocity of the team.
Some of those early games against City were like that, weren't they?
Yeah.
City were just overwhelmed.
Like as Dave said, it's the best. You'll probably never have it as good again, sadly. But at least you had it good once.
Yeah. Like, we might be successful and we might win titles. I just don't think we'll have the success. And
It's like cranking
the
it up,
football
isn't it?
And like it just the whole package. I don't think we'll ever
Yeah.
have that whole package again.
Yeah, I don't think you can talk about a guy being. Well, I don't know. You'll be interested in Jules' take actually, but Dave, you and I have both called him repeatedly over this last season our greatest ever manager. I don't see how you can say that he's our greatest ever manager in a club with our history, and then also not think it's almost impossible that we're going to get there again, because you look at who he's gone past to get to where he was.
Yeah.
So I don't see how any of us can expect to better that. Where do you place him, Jules? How high do you say him?
I don't ever think you can ever supplant Shankly, because if you don't have him, you don't have the modern Liverpool. So,
Yeah,
Liverpool were in the second division when he took over, so he had to bring the club out to the second division and then turn them into the powerhouse that became. So, I mean, I wasn't born, so it's irrelevant. And I'm not as you two will know, I'm not a massive fan of comparing eras, because I think it's just not a fair comparison. So you can only talk about the achievements, and I just think you'll never be able to supplant the man that made Liverpool what it is. You don't get everything else that follows if you don't get Shankly. So Shankly can't be beaten for me, because it's just not feasible. He's the father of modern Liverpool.
So would you put him at his shoulder? Would you put him level with Shanks? Would you say that he's a modern equivalent? How would you?
When people say he's like our Shankly, I don't. That sounds like hyperbole, but I actually think that's quite fair. In how he is, Liverpool was in a very different state. Money is different. The game is different. So it's not a like for like comparison. But to take a club that was drifting, that sort of had an idea of what it wanted to do but couldn't achieve it, and take and mold it and make it become what it's been over the last 8 years. That's special. That's not an easy thing to do. No one's been able to do it for 30 odd years. It's a hell of an achievement that he did. So whilst you can call, I would absolutely stand by saying, yeah, he's like a modern Shankly. I don't think that's and the way he's retired as well, left the club as well. I think it stands comparison. But in terms of like where the greats are, I just don't think you'll ever be able to put him above Shankly. I wouldn't be against putting a statue of him outside the ground, but then I've long said that I don't think we have enough statues of form for a club that worships its managers so much. They finally, I don't mind the Paisley statue they put up, but I'd have preferred something. I'd have preferred something different. But at least like Paisley's now got a statue and Shankly's got a statue. Kenny should have a statue, and Kenny should have a statue of him wheeling away scoring against Chelsea.
Yeah.
That's like that's like a slam dunk, and I know he's got a stand named after him, but again, I don't see why.
That, isn't it?
Well, you stick the statue outside the stand, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, what's the big deal about like a statue? Stands, I get it, because it's difficult because you've only got 4 stands, and you don't want to put yourself in a position where you've got no leeway if somebody comes along who's like better than everybody, but you can't take a name away from a stand. So a stand's a tricky one, but statues, you could have as many as you wanted.
Yeah. I think Kenny deserves one. I think it should be outside the stand named after him.
Yeah.
And I think it should be the wheeling away celebration. And I wouldn't be opposed.
Be that. That's the iconic Kenny moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Everyone thinks of.
And then when it comes to Klopp, I wouldn't be opposed to giving him a statue in a couple of years. I'm sure
What
the man
would that
himself
be,
would.
I think I'd have him hugging Alisson.
I think it would be, if it was me, it would be in the ball cap, gurning, with the snood around the thing, in the big jacket, fist pumping.
Fist pumping, definitely.
Yeah, it's the fist pump, isn't it? You're right. It is, yeah.
I think we need to talk about COVID and what impact that had. That was one of the questions that we got, actually. Niall Smith asked, how much do you think the COVID pandemic affected us in the subsequent years? Not getting to celebrate the title with the players, not being in the stands the following season as they tried to defend it, the caution in the transfer market as well, due to financial uncertainty at the time. You know, if COVID doesn't happen, how different do you think things would be? Jules, we'll start with you.
So we've just talked about the atmosphere at Anfield and what it means. So I don't think you can really you can say that and then say that the club behind closed door games didn't affect us, because it massively affected the team.
Those 6 home defeats,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
And we lost 6 home games in the bounce, and really, how much did anyone care either? Because the COVID season was just so impersonal, unfortunately. You know, because of the nature of the pandemic. But I think that massively affected us. It massively affected the title defense. We didn't give a good account of ourselves. But I don't the injuries aside, a full stadium is what we need. Is a component of Klopp's Liverpool, and missing that component severely hampered us. And in terms of the transfer market, yeah, I think we were too cautious there. In hindsight, I do get that they didn't want to sign a centre back and they were waiting for Konate and all that kind of stuff. But also it just we won the league after during a lockdown, and we couldn't celebrate it. And
That was really shit.
I'm not quite sure I'll ever get over not being able to see them lift the trophy.
I
to be
agree
honest,
with Klopp, and celebrate it with him. That's the thing.
As I said at the start of this pod, I really wish they brought the trophies out on the pitch so that we could have seen them, because it would have been backdoor. We all want to see that Premier League trophy. We didn't get to see it. We won that league, and you know what? The trophy list is still in my Skype planner. I've still got it, but I can't bring myself to delete it because it's there, so I know it happened. But also, when I watch it, I just feel a bit sad because there was no one there. And I know the players, they probably, they feel a little bit, but they still got to have that celebration, but we didn't. And yeah, I don't think it hampered us long term, because the season after the COVID season, we were fighting on 4 4 fronts. We almost won 4 trophies, and that in itself cannoned into the next season and tied us out for the next season. So I don't think it affected us more than the season immediately after. But the season immediately after, it is a what-if season.
I slightly disagree with that point about fitness, in that I think it. I agree with everything you said, by the way, Jules, about the trophy and the fans not being there and all of that, and Dave's point earlier about the transfers and being able to sell players and what have you. I feel that there was a physical price to pay for it. I feel that the season being stopped and restarted, that knocked out the players' rhythms a lot. The World Cup that was moved to the middle of the season, that had all of those things. There was lots of little knock-ons that eventually caught up with us and led to everyone falling off a cliff. And it didn't happen immediately, and it didn't happen logically in that you'd expect it to be almost immediate after these things happen. But I do think that some of those players' careers were affected by. I'm thinking particularly here. This is purely speculative. We'll never actually know. But I do think Henderson and Fabinho, particularly the way that both of them fell off a cliff in terms of their legs and what they were able to deliver, I think that some of that was to do with the attritional nature, but also of the amount of football that they played, but not in a rhythm that they've been used to throughout the rest of their careers. We've talked so often about how these players are finely tuned machines, and I think it's like where you're putting a different quality oil. You're putting instead of having the Formula 1 quality oil in the Formula 1 car, you're going down to Sainsbury's and you're topping up with their unleaded economy. And I think and expecting the car to run in the same way. I think it's a little bit akin to that, and I think there's a bigger issue around fitness at the club. I think there has to be, just looking at the number of injuries that we've had over time. But I do think some of it has to be attributed. It doesn't make sense to me that it wouldn't be attributable to the way those rhythms were changed. So I think that has affected us. And also, there's clearly been an effect with other clubs across the Premier League. There's been a wide a wide spate of injury problems right across football over the last sort of 18 months or so. So I think it's been broader than us. But yeah, I think fitness was affected by it. But the biggest thing is the main one that Jules has said, is the fact that we were robbed really of that chance to celebrate that league win. And 30 years, I was struck by Jules saying earlier, 30 years. 30 years is a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, when I grew up, and Dave, I'm sure you'll have the same view. Winning the league just felt like what we did every season.
Yeah.
When I grew up as a Red, it just we'll win the league, won the league again. Yeah, we've won the league again. Yeah, league title yet again. It's ours. We used to call it ours. We called it our trophy, and then we went 30 years without. And to be able to get it back that once, in the midst of City trying to just make it entirely theirs and not be able to celebrate, it feels like a little hole, doesn't it? There's a little gap at the heart of the Jurgen Klopp era, that we didn't get that chance to connect with the players and connect with the manager and see that trophy lifted.
That's the biggest regret in terms of how it's affected us in subsequent years. I don't think it's affecting us now in any way. I think it did affect us, like the season after, 100% it did. And maybe on transfers, you could say, for a couple of years, we may have done things differently, so there would have been like a knock-on effect there. But
we'd have sold more players, wouldn't we?
Yeah, probably. But I mean, I don't know.
Got money for bit part players that dried
the market changed, and
we were going to sell Divock, weren't we? And then we didn't.
And we signed Minamino, and then he was immediately like in lockdown and didn't really. He was on his own, and it never happened for him here. But he was a good player. Things might have turned out differently for him. You just don't know. He could have been one of those players that Klopp turned into like a massive star. So I don't think we're really having any kind of effect from it now, apart from the regret that we'll always have that we never got to celebrate the title. And on that note, I mean, and it's a big if, I know, but if the thing with City turns out where they get stripped of titles and it gets awarded to like second place teams or whatever, I would be 100% down with getting Klopp back and getting all them players back on a bus and going through town.
Is right.
I would be all in.
Me too.
Because why the fuck shouldn't they?
Yeah.
If it's proven that they've cheated and like they're not worthy champions, they get points deducted for that season or whatever. I know it's not going to happen, but just hypothetical. If that did happen, absolutely get that fucking bus booked and get everybody back. But put the band back together. Tell Henzo, right, look, whatever's on your mind, whatever's bothering you, it doesn't matter. Get on that bus.
Just leave your rainbow armband at home, but you can get on the bus.
Yeah. So
no, I'm sound with that. Yeah,
I'd be all in on that. But on a similar note to that, David Keelan asked, so the 2018 to 2020 team, probably our best ever, or maybe our best ever, but what signings should we have made around about that time to keep it going? Because we didn't do a great deal. People were saying you spend while you're on top and stuff. Do you think we should have done anything differently, or would you just let it play out the way it did?
Well, the one thing I always wanted to see...
Mbappe.
Oh, no, I'm surprised you got this wrong. He should have brought Suarez back. Should have brought Suarez back. That's the one. Suarez playing for Jurgen Klopp. Like, it's almost like my brain can't cope with it. It doesn't compute. It's like it's almost like it's just like peak Liverpool. It's too much for me to imagine. But I think I'd love to see Suarez play for Jurgen Klopp. I don't think that was realistic. That was never going to happen. But that would have been great. So I suppose the question's really getting towards how do you sort of rejuvenate that team, stop it falling off, and stay elite, stay at the peak. I mean, I think, ultimately it's about, the engine, we know the engine faded and we needed something in there. I thought Bellingham would have been the right choice, but Bellingham, that was not really that point, was it? That was like some years further down the line.
Not 2020.
I don't really know. Who was around then? Who's the player?
Mbappe.
Mbappe, yeah. Mbappe would have been great, but not realistic, clearly, as we know. I don't really know.
Probably a midfielder. It's probably... That would be what you'd look to do. Yeah. Maybe bring in another midfielder.
Yeah.
And maybe another forward. I don't know. I don't know. It's a tough question because I didn't have a massive issue with what we were doing spending wise back then. You know, we didn't make loads of signings, but I didn't feel like we needed to. But in hindsight, yeah, maybe we could have freshened it up a bit, and maybe that would have stopped what happened last year. But I mean, we nearly won 4 trophies the season before, so there wasn't much wrong with it. And the 4 trophy thing, if we'd have sacrificed like the League Cup or the FA Cup, we would have maybe won the other 2. But going for 4 just kind of it kills you, and it did this season as well. You know, you're going all out for 4 trophies. It's so hard to do. There's a knock-on effect.
It's that point you made about Klopp before, Dave. It's like he won't back down. He goes balls out for everything. You know what I mean? And love that about him.
Let's see, what else have we got? So this goes back to what Jules said earlier. So Scouse Cowboy asks, will we ever turn up at Anfield again for 2 or 3 seasons on the bounce thinking what score will we win rather than will we win? Jules, do you want to take that?
No, probably not.
Yeah.
You want to be positive and think that in the future it will be as good. It might be as good, but it won't be the same. So I don't ever think that feeling. Like you were always saying, we win 5-0 anyway, so I'm not sure like you'll feel any different. But
yeah, well, Paul was saying 10-0.
But no, and I don't think you two were like way too optimistic sometimes. But like not in terms of the wins, but in terms of the goal tallies. But I suppose, as I said at the start of the pod, it really hit me like that quietly. Although I don't go out going, yeah, we're going to thrash these, because that's just not the way I think. Clearly underlying it, all of my thoughts were I would go to Anfield expecting to win, and I'd be quite surprised. And like, you know, if another team, if the opposition scored first and we went behind in a game, I now look back and I would sort of think, oh fucking hell, you don't get that, you don't get a lot of that these days. And then but you think, yeah, but we'll score, because we always did. And
I stopped worrying at Anfield. Do you ever feel worried if we went behind, or if, you know, people used to get a bit jittery about Alisson?
Depends on the opposition.
I just very, very, very. I honestly just almost stopped worrying completely. I just had no expectation that even if we go a goal behind, never mind if someone equalised, but if we go even going a goal behind, I just thought, no.
During our peak years, no, I didn't worry. I always thought, yeah, it'll be fine.
But in the last couple,
yeah. And even then, you know, we have come back most of the time.
Yeah, like the Arsenal game, we went behind and I was thinking, shit, because we did not look at it at all, but we didn't lose.
Did we go behind to City as well?
We drew, but I can't remember who scored first.
Yeah, I think we went behind. Could be wrong.
But that Arsenal, I mean, in the end, we could have actually won that Arsenal game. So, but like when they scored, they were looking far superior, and you're thinking, oh, fucking hell, this might be a problem. But it wasn't. We still didn't lose. So again, it's one of those where you always have to hope that we'll be as good at some point again in the future. It might not be with Slot. It might be in 10 years or whatever, God forbid. But you have to hope that it will be. But I just don't think that set of circumstances of how good that 2018 to 2020 team was, that you'll ever really replicate that. I don't think it's possible. It's like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way as well. That doesn't mean it's going to be bad or anything, but I'm not sure it'll ever be that good again.
Yeah.
Next one, LFC 6 times asks, me and Paul will probably struggle with this one. Top 5 favourite games outside the obvious ones like Barcelona and Champions League final.
Yeah. Right. I thought about this. So I've got the City 3-0 in the Champions League in 2018.
Yeah.
Like slightly marred. I think it was Roma Rocks got injured, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But that was absolutely outstanding. That was so enjoyable, taking them apart, wrecking their dream. And we won the away leg as well.
Mm.
We won 5-1 on aggregate, I think.
Yeah.
Loved that.
Won a goal down in the away leg 1-2-1, didn't we?
Yeah. So I tried to avoid cup finals, like, because obviously you could just go, well, you know, the League Cup final has just been and everything. So I've tried to avoid cup finals as well, because they're cup finals and they carry extra significance. I've just tried to go with either games leading to cup finals or league games. the Origi winner against Everton when Klopp ran on the pitch. Like, not only for that, but all the videos, like people setting it to the Baywatch music and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like just supreme. Like continuing the sort of like the joke that like Pickford's got small arms as well. Like it just everything. It was peak beating Everton. I don't think you'll ever beat Everton in a better way.
No,
even
it
if you
spawned a million memes that game, didn't it?
even if you batter them 7-0 like we did the Manx, that'll never be as good as that Origi game because people were leaving. Everyone was like, fucking hell, it was around Christmas time, wasn't it? And we'd done it to the year earlier with Mane as well, so we had the Mane song going as well at Goodison. Just phenomenal. Loved that.
They threw a flare on the pitch when Virgil skied the shot as well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So the goal goes in, and then there's like this purple flare in front of the away.
And then it went fucking nuts as well. It went absolutely nuts. It was one of those amazing celebrations. It was incredible.
Yeah. Then I went with the United game when Alisson cleared, Mo scored, and I think it's now sort of regarded as the game where we all thought, yeah, we're winning this league. It's done. We're done. We've won this. Loved that. Mo whipping the shirt off, getting his tits out. Loved all that. Then I've got just for the teenage me that suffered at the hands of Manchester United for so long, the 7-0. Just
Mo
the biggest
sitting Martinez down. That was amazing. That wasn't
it?
Yeah. And then I went for one for last season, I went for one for the season just gone, just because it was his last season. And again, I didn't want to pick the League Cup final because I think that was the obvious one. But I went for Darwin's Nooner away at Forest, just because that was about the last time when I thought realistically we might actually win the league. I thought, fucking, after we'd scored that, I came away thinking, fucking up, we you know, it seems like we've got that sort of way to grind it out, momentum. We might actually win this, and I just loved the scenes at the end.
Well, you were at that game as well,
and it does have that added that I was at that game as well, so it's just like that little bit extra. So without the sorry, Paul, I'll wrap it up now. I was at all of those. I was at all of those games.
So recap, to
be honest.
5. United 7-0. United 1.
I'll go in chronological order. I go City 3-0 in April 18. The Origi winner against Everton in the same year. United 2-0 in January 2020. United 7-0 in March 23, and then Forest this year. But again, the Forest one, I wanted to include him from his last season.
Yeah, because it was a terrible performance.
Yeah, it was shite. Better than the year before. But there's my 5 for you.
You got any different ones, Paul?
I sort of thought of those ones. I wasn't really sure what the question meant by the obvious ones. I think most of those are ones that were really, that Jules mentioned, are acclaimed ones, aren't they? And I agree with all of them. The Leicester 4-0.
Yeah,
that was amazing. And did Klopp mention that as one of his best favourite performances? I thought that was incredible. The Dortmund, I mentioned Dortmund earlier, didn't I? That was great. The Roma semi, 5-2.
Yeah, that
was fucking amazing. City was the 4-3, 17-18. Ox scored the first one, and then Bobby the front three. Yeah, the front three all scored. That was absolutely fantastic. I mean, we've just been spoilt, haven't we? Absolutely spoilt rotten.
We've battered Arsenal a few times as well.
Yeah, we have.
The Red Arrows Arsenal game, you know, where they had the shot from the tunnel of just Mo going past the that was great.
Yeah. And you know that, I mean, that Barcelona, I know it's asked not for the obvious ones, but that Barcelona game was unbelievable. The fucking booing Suarez from the kickoff. Right? So, booing Suarez from the kickoff, and then Robbo like shoving Messi when he's on the floor, and all of those little moments within the game. And I don't know about you boys, but when the fourth one got in, I didn't see the corner get taken, but I saw the ball just come to Divock and go in, and then just bewildered and going absolutely fucking nuts. That game was unbelievable. We played some sensational football that day, and Alisson was fucking brilliant that day as well, by the way.
Yeah.
He pulled off about 3 or 4 world-class saves to keep us in that game.
Mo's never give up shirt.
Yeah, brilliant. brilliant.
No, I mean that's the number one, right? Like I think we all agree that's probably the number one.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Has to be.
It's the era defining game. I don't think there's any argument there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not really got much to add to those that you mentioned. I would include the League Cup final
Darwin's
this year,
first goal.
Well, you included the Forest one, so
Yeah, good shout on the cup
there's
final.
the Darwin content, but yeah, the cup final this year, that was ridiculous. Like the team that we had out to do what we did, and yeah, another one that's probably worth mentioning, although it was infuriating at the time, was the Tottenham game when we blew a 3-0 lead, and then Richarlison scored, didn't he? Like in stoppage time, and he's like giving it the beans.
Oh, and Jota scored the winner.
Spurs went the full Spurs, and like so that was a great moment. I wouldn't put that in my top games because the way we blew the lead was shocking. But in terms of moments, that was a great moment. Like, but no, well let's do
so many
moments then, because for me, it's obviously like we'll leave Barcelona out of it because that's going to be the answer to everything, isn't it? I'd probably go Origi in the derby. That would be like the moment, and then Klopp running on the pitch.
Yeah.
Anything tops that. Alisson's header.
Well, again, COVID, and it was an away game anyway.
Yeah.
It was great, like absolutely. Again, I think they put the Titanic music to that, didn't they? Like anytime you put inappropriate music to it, it's even
Rocky
better.
music as well. People always put, like the Rocky music.
Well, they used Rocky for the cup final, didn't they? For the League Cup final. Just tremendous. Yeah, I think the Origi one. Again, it was just peak beating Everton. You can't beat. It's got all the ingredients you needed, and what a moment.
The question that Klopp got asked, we'll go through these quickly, won't spend too much time on them, but Klopp was asked if he could go back to any game and revisit it, any game at Anfield and revisit it, what would it be? And he said about the City draws. Let's widen it out, not just Anfield, just any game. If you could change one game that we've had.
Oh, it's the millimetres non-goal.
The John Stones one.
Yeah, that's the one for me.
So you change that one, so what that means is we win the title that year.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go for Champions League?
No,
prioritise
the
title. I think I would as well. I'm just asking the question.
I mean, I suppose the one other moment is maybe
the second Madrid finals one.
Maybe Ramos's attempt to pop Mo's shoulder is unsuccessful, and Mo isn't injured, and he stays.
Well, I saw a question.
Still have lost that game anyway, though.
Yeah, I saw a question that said like a key injury. That's the key injury, isn't it? That's the what-if injury, I think. Is it a bigger one? Mo's injury in that?
Virgil being out for all that time. They're the two, aren't they? The Mo in the cup final. Certainly in the moments, Mo's was the biggest. But that assault on Virgil was absolutely horrendous. Can't believe it wasn't even a foul.
I know, yeah, that was... Yeah, it still haunts me, that one. That was just so unfair, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Paulie Dangerously asks, will this era be remembered more for the trophies or the near misses, like in years to come?
By whom?
I suppose another way to ask that would be, will it be remembered for what we won or the injustice of what we didn't?
Well, that depends on City's punishment.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah,
because the injustice still burns for me at the moment.
It'd be the trophies though.
I think of this as, when I think of this period, I think I said it at some point earlier on. I don't think of the trophies, even though I'm obviously aware of them. I think of the thrill,
just the
in
joy
football.
Of the whole thing.
Exactly, it's the joy, the thrills. That's what I think of this period. I do think of the trophies. I do think of the injustice, but it's the joy and the thrills and the excitement. That's my overwhelming, overriding memory, emotion, sense, whatever of this era. And the connection between manager, player, and fans. That going to Anfield was brilliant. I mean, the three of us have been so lucky, haven't we, to be able to go every week, and that to have that experience, I think is really what I would remember. Just that sense of going the game every week to watch this amazing football and this amazing team under this amazing man.
So, we'll just do one more question. So Bjornaby asks, Jurgen with or without glasses? If I'm going to take this one, I'm definitely going to take this one because I feel strongly about it. So definitely, I preferred Klopp with glasses, but my answer is going to be without. Because I keep thinking like that. It was the Norwich game, remember? When
Where
the
he
mad
broke his
celebrations.
glasses.
Flying Lallana's goal.
And there is nothing worse than you're trying to celebrate a goal and someone's worrying about the fucking glasses. It's just the biggest like moment killer. Someone's worrying about, oh, my glasses. So no, definitely Jurgen without glasses, and also Paul. You should be going down that road as well, because next time we get to a Champions League final, if your glasses come off, I'm not helping you look for them.
I've got more robust glasses now.
So this is, I suppose this is technically, this will be like our last pod of the season, because whatever we do from now on, I feel like that'll be classed as
the new era.
Moving on, like with an eye on next season. So whether it'll be slots, press conference, signings, or players leaving, whatever, we'll be doing pods for all of that stuff. But
maybe only a week away, that isn't it? 1st of June, not far off.
Yeah, what are we on? 20.
So it's a week tomorrow, I think. The 1st of June, is it?
24.
Yeah. So you'd imagine the day that he signs, that's the day when they'll be doing like the press conference. You'd think so. Like they'll do it all in that same day, and then all like the content coming out and that. So yeah, we'll definitely do something from that. But it's been like it's been a good season for the pod. We've had loads of good feedback. Numbers of listeners is going up and all that. So thanks to everybody for the support. It's always appreciated, especially like feedback when we put something out, and
stuff on Twitter's good, isn't it? Twitter and the forum. It's good to get people coming back to us.
Something the other day was really nice, and one of the listeners said like his 16-year-old son. We'll give him a shout out, Seb. We know you'll be listening, so shout out to you, mate. Thanks for listening. Not many. I don't really think that many people that age are that much into podcasts and that, so it's good like to know that the younger generation is still they're still interested, and we're not just talking to people of our own age all the time. So
old man shouting at clouds.
Also shout out to a couple of Adriana's mates in Ormskirk sixth form who listen, Dan and Ben. They're not even Liverpool fans. One's a United fan, one's an Everton fan, and they listen to us as well for some reason. No idea why. So that's good, even though Paul, sorry to tell you, mate, but they don't like you.
Thanks for that, Dave. Nice one.
Do it's totally unfair. Do you know why they don't like you?
Go ahead.
I think it's because you're a teacher. I think it's like that aspect of it. But it was the first one they listened to was the emergency pod when Klopp said he was leaving. I think Adriana had said something in school about, my dad's got to do an emergency pod, and they were like, what's an emergency pod? What's that mean? So they listened to it, and they didn't like the fact that you were on your break. You'd come out on your break because you needed to talk about it. That, like, for some reason, it bothered them. And they'll say stuff in class now. Like, someone was doing something that was annoying them the other day, and one of them was like, oh, that's pure Natton behaviour. they just refer to you as Natton. It's not even Paul. It's like, but this isn't even the worst part of it. The thing that really bothered me, because much as like I like it in that, Paul, it's like I can accept criticism of you. The thing that bothered me most, do you know who the favourite is on the pod?
Stu.
Yeah. Can you believe that?
Well, I think that says all we need to hear, doesn't it, about those
questionable
kids?
Judgment. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
Definitely questionable judgment.
Well, whoever you are, thanks for listening anyway, you little pair of fucking blades. No, seriously, nice one for listening. Sound. And it's good that we get, as I said, like just the feedback from people on Twitter and on forum is really good. Like, it just helps us keep it. I think Chris is really good at mentioning that, and Chris is really good at that sort of engagement, and it does keep us, it keeps things fresh, doesn't it? It gives us a different perspective, and some of these questions are good as well. Gets us to think about the game in a
I want to do that a bit
way.
more often, actually. Get questions in more often, because sometimes we've got games and there's like not so much that there's not much happening, but if we're doing like a League Cup match in midweek and that, I think maybe get more questions in. So your cat just made an appearance there, Giles.
Yeah, Tinker's turned up for the end.
I didn't know if you were snoring then. I thought, oh, am I boring him again? Is he snoring? But no, it was the cat, wasn't it?
No, he's turned up right at the end. You got to give the people what they want.
Yeah. Final appearance of the season for the cat.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add in summary, or do you think we covered everything?
Well, you could talk about Klopp for hours more, couldn't you? You could talk about it was such a great era. And it's really sad to be talking about it as a defined end point now, but I suppose you have to just look to the future, see how Slot fits in. I was going to say slots in. No,
No.
No. There's plenty of time for that, and the evolution of Darwin jokes and everything next season.
Yeah.
So you could talk for hours about the man. You could talk for hours about the team, because it gave us so many hours of joy. Onwards, maybe not upwards, but definitely onwards.
Yeah. What about you, Natton?
Just
Pure
fucking
Natton, pure Natton.
Just fucking love him, and just so glad to have had him. You know what I mean? He's just a fucking amazing fella, and just delighted to have had him at the club, and to have been lucky enough to see all those great moments. It is sad. It is a little bit sad that he's gone. But do you know the one thing that struck me seeing some of these interviews? It's definitely. I mean, I think we'd said this already, but it's definitely the right thing. He's made the right decision. Mm-hmm. He's completely at peace with it, and he's looking forward to it, isn't he? And good luck to him. Like, it'd be fucking great to see him back at Anfield, won't it? I can't wait for that. Part of me was a little bit uneasy about that, thinking, oh, will he come back and it'll be difficult for Slot? But I don't think he will make it difficult. No. And it'll be just great. I mean, Kenny handles it really well when he gets his name sung every week, and it'll be great to see Jurgen back at Anfield at some point in the future.
A manager shouldn't feel threatened by that.
No, absolutely.
Just chanting his name is not like the same as, oh yeah, we want you back instead of this fella. So it shouldn't feel.
And if you are, you've got a problem, because that's a battle you're never going to win, is it? You know what I mean?
True,
you're never going to be loved more than Jurgen Klopp.
So Klopp did say that he's looking at after the second international break for when he'll probably come back for the game, but he is going to be back for Taylor Swift in a couple of weeks. He's going to be around Anfield for that. So
we might see him there.
I wish I was.
Hey.
I wish I was going. No, you are.
I thought you got tickets, Dave.
No, Adriana's got tickets. She's going twice, but no, I'm not going with her.
No, I'm going. I'll go see TT.
Yeah, Klopp's redeemed himself there, because I was seriously questioning his taste after that comment, which, I could have sacked him on the spot, to be honest, when he said it. He preferred Europe to Bon Jovi. I mean, that was a fucking outrageous statement, but he's redeemed himself now. He's a Swiftie, so fair enough. Can't be right about everything. Actually, I got one more question I want to throw in here, because it kind of touches on what we were saying earlier about like the Klopp effect on players. So Welsh on the forum asks, which player or players are most likely to be affected by Klopp's departure, and that's both positive and negative. So pick one player. One positive, one negative.
Darwin positive, because he obviously fucking hates him. No. Negative. I mean, it could, we've spent time just saying it could be anyone who could drop off without the Klopp effect. Part of me, all jokes aside, part of me is a little bit concerned that, like, will Quansah develop at the same rate he was developing without Klopp?
Yeah,
because he's clear. Klopp clearly knows. We talked about Reece Williams, we've talked about Trent. Even Robbo was quite young when he was brought in, of how to take these players and develop them within the cauldron of Liverpool. And I do wonder, like, is it going to be as easy now for Quansah without that sort of backing?
He looks too level-headed to me to drop off. I think.
Yeah, that's a good shout, though. I think. I mean, because you've got to pick someone. I think that's like an interesting.
Endo's the one for me. I think Endo will be surplus to requirements, and I think I just don't think he'll get picked.
But so
do we think the same thing?
I
Maybe
wouldn't
that's
even
not the
count
same thing.
him, because we know he's kind of a stopgap anyway.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't have counted him. I think you're right though, Paul. But that's not. Yeah, he was never going to be here more than 2 years anyway. I don't think, and certainly not first choice. In terms of improvement. Do you know what? I will say Darwin.
Yeah, that's what I would have said as well.
Yeah, I will say Darwin.
Well, he's clearly, I mean, clearly the club have told him he's expected to do something with Darwin, or at least try, haven't they? And I wonder.
Well, apparently he said that to them.
there'll be something.
He
There'll be something
him
around
as someone who he wants to work with. So.
Yeah, but also some of the pieces that have been written recently about the process, the recruitment process, have said that rehabilitating Darwin or getting more out of Darwin was a key factor in what they were looking for. I just wonder if Darwin actually, that you mentioned it before, Dave, that the Pep stuff when he was talking about how the team had changed and Darwin offers something totally different, and I wonder if what actually Darwin needs is a tactical plan building around him, and I don't think he's ever had that.
He's a peacock. You got to let him fly.
And maybe if Slot does that for him, then we'll get the real Darwin. I wonder if I worry that about all. Jules mentioned Kwanzaa. Some of the other younger lads, worry me a little bit. I just wonder what will happen to will Bobby Clark still get a look in? Will Connor Bradley still get a look in? If they do,
I think Connor Bradley's too good. I think he will. I know what you mean. I'd worry for Curtis. Not sure why. Just gut feeling.
Well, I certainly think some of our academy players will be sold because it makes financial sense to do so, and there won't be places for all of them.
And there won't be a club with the loyalty thing that he has, where he won't sell them if they don't want to go.
Yeah.
That's gone.
Yeah.
Edwards Hughes will just sell people. So
because they're all starting again. They've all got to impress the new manager. What's gone before doesn't really count in the new manager's eyes. He'll have an opinion on them, but he's going to judge them all when he comes in. He's going to watch them and decide who fits what he wants to do, who might not fit, who can adapt if they don't fit, who can adapt to what he wants. And I don't know, I just maybe Curtis might have a problem. I hope not, because I love Curtis. I've got a feeling Harvey is going to thrive. I think the way Harvey's ended the season, you can see what a big talent he is. I feel like I could see him really thriving, just kicking on, just because it's a natural progression. He's getting better, more experienced. He's definitely stronger. You can see he's a bit more stocky. All that work he's been doing in the gym's paid off. Just got a feeling Harvey's going to really kick on next year. But
Szoboszlai needs to. I'm not sure whether he will.
Yeah, I don't know how that one's going to go. I think we'll see a change of position for him, and that might be what he needs. So if I'm not saying Darwin, because you said Darwin, Jules, I'll let you have Darwin. I would probably say the positive. I think Szoboszlai maybe needs a change of manager. Not so much change of manager, but a change of position.
Yeah.
So
on the left, maybe.
Yeah, I'd probably go with him. And negative, you know what? I said Curtis, but it could be Trent. All depends what he's got in mind for him. We just don't know, do we? That's up in the air to me. Position-wise, we just don't know what he's going to do. That's the most interesting question for me, is what's he going to do with Trent? Because he's too good to just, not find a place. And you've got to pick where's he going to be best suited.
I think he might leave him. I think he might leave him at right back. I think he might play him there. I'm not sure this move into midfield is going to materialise at all. I think he might go back to Trent Mark 1, the original that came through. The marauding fellow who plays really high up the pitch.
It depends on how he's going to play, because there's so many those videos that we've watched about his tactics, and none of them are the same. No two videos are the same. On some of them, there's two fullbacks play narrow in the midfield, and then in others they're right up the pitch. They're the ones putting crosses in. So he's flexible. He can do different things. So it just depends what he wants from Trent, I suppose.
We're into the slot era now, aren't we?
Yeah. We'll go into this more next week when he does his press conference and that. So yeah, we've been going for well over 2 hours. I know you're going to be turning into a pumpkin at some point, Paul. It's way past your bedtime.
It's already happened, mate.
Yeah. Right, that's it. We're done. So last one for this season, but we'll be back next week after Slot's press conference, unless we sign somebody in the meantime and we have to do an emergency pod. But yeah, until then, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you soon.
Well, the best word I can say, but will describe this, was boom. Woo! What was this? It was really good.
Oh, you to me are everything, the sweetest song that I could sing, oh baby. Oh,